Investigator Brian Polson at the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Friday, May 30th. This is day 4 of the Maxwell Anderson trial. He is on trial charged with homicide in the death of 19-year-old Sade Robinson, a young Milwaukee woman who was found dismembered in various places all over Milwaukee County after a date with Maxwell Anderson. Day 4 of the trial, the AM testimony is complete. The court is currently in recess and preparing to come back for one more afternoon before they break for the weekend and resume in a second week of testimony. We've talked a lot here about what's happened so far. I want to talk a little bit about what has happened today here on the 4th day of the trial. We have heard from detectives primarily who have talked about a canvassing of the north side of Milwaukee near the area where Sade Robinson's car was found set on fire. That was in the area of 29th and Lisbon. And in the area around that, they obtained a lot of surveillance videos showing her car prior to it being burned, driving around and circling around that north side neighborhood. One of the things the defense keeps pointing to is while that car is traveling around, making U-turns, seems to be sort of searching maybe for a place for the car fire to take place, you cannot see in the window who's driving the car. You can't see if there's a passenger. It is a wet day. It's somewhat the windows are fogged up, so you can't see inside. And the defense is pointing out that you might see this car. You might be painting the picture that that's Maxwell Anderson looking for the place where he is going to burn the car or set it on fire. The defense is saying, well, we can't see who's inside that car. We do know ultimately the car ended up being burned or set afire, according to witnesses who testified from the fire department and the ATF. It was intentionally set on fire behind an abandoned building or a vacant building there at 29th and Lisbon. We also heard today from officers who were called a few days later to canvass a playground just about a block or two away from where the car fire happened. This playground at 31st and Galena on the north side of Milwaukee is right along some railroad tracks. And in between the playground, in a wooded area between the playground and railroad tracks, we had police recovered multiple parts of what they say were Sade Robinson's remains. That includes a human foot. We know that the very first thing that surfaced was a leg that washed up on the shores of Lake Michigan. You can see now the park. Right there in the wooded area, they found a foot. It was obviously the foot belonging to the other leg of Sade Robinson's. They found some flesh and bone inside that same wooded area, and then deeper in along the railroad tracks, they found additional human remains. It's not been explicitly stated that all of these pieces of remains were in fact traced back or DNA tested as belonging to Sade Robinson. That seems to certainly be the implication. As you look at this picture though, at the very north edge of the screen, you can't quite see it, but the north edge of the screen is Walnut. And Walnut this is again all in that area not far from the car fire, but right there at that north edge of where the playground is, the prosecutors presented a photograph of a man who was seen on surveillance walking down the sidewalk on that road just north, pretty much north of where you see the tree line there. You see the trees. If you imagine just beyond those trees at the top of your screen, there's a road that's Walnut. Right there, there's kind of a white bridge that's going over the railroad tracks. And just in front of sort of the white railing of that bridge, Maxwell Anderson, or I should say, prosecutors say Maxwell Anderson, is spotted walking with a backpack and a hoodie. We know there's a person who is walking with a hood over his head, a backpack that appears to be stuffed full, and they describe the color of the pants, the color of the hoodie, the color of the shoes, in fact, with light colored soles, which becomes important later when in other surveillance videos, you can only see his feet, but you can, from these other videos, because it's at the very top of the screen, you can't see the full body. You can still see those white colored soles or lighter colored soles of the shoes. So the implication from the state here is you have the car fire up at 29th and Lisbon, and then a very short time later, this man walking with the backpack and the hoodie, backpack that appears to be stuffed full of something, and then right in that same vicinity, human remains are found a few days later. The suggestion would be that he left that scene and then dumped these body parts. One thing that defense attorney Tony Cotton asked investigators was, did anyone find these human remains on April 2nd or 3rd or 4th in the immediate days afterwards? And the answer is no, they didn't find them actually until April 5th or 6th, which is after Maxwell Anderson had been taken into custody in this case. The suggestion I would imagine that the defense is trying to make there is that somebody else must have left those body parts and not Maxwell Anderson. Of course, I would imagine prosecutors would argue that they just hadn't recovered them yet. It wasn't until they were called out because of something someone else had spotted in that area that they were called to canvass that neighborhood. In any case, we're going to keep hearing more and more of this kind of testimony. There's one more thing I want to update you on that we heard about today, and this is sort of a reminder that all the people who are part of this case, part of the prosecution, part of the defense, part of the criminal justice system, are real people and have real families, but at the same time, there's a lot of emotion wrapped up on this. We received word today that the Waukesha Police Department is investigating a threat made against defense attorney Tony Cotton. They say that the caller to the police department to report this was an attorney for the Kukler and Cotton law firm. The defense attorneys that are obviously handling the Maxwell Anderson case, high-profile jury trial for the murder of Sade Robinson here in Milwaukee. This is written on Thursday, so yesterday afternoon. It says, at 3:30 p.m. today, their office received a phone call from a 262 phone number, and the caller stated, quote, "If Tony doesn't drop the," and I'm going to censor here, "bleeping case, I'm going to kill his bleeping sons," end quote. The caller stated that this office received a call from a blocked phone number. Now, again, these are high-profile cases with a lot on the line, a lot of emotion. Someone's been killed, and in this case, graphically dismembered. You also have someone whose life is on the line in a homicide trial. It is not uncommon that threats like this might happen, but now that this has been reported, we wanted you to know about it, wanted to bring it your way. One more thing I want to get to before we get to our Fox 6 anchor, Ben Handelman, who is out in the field. He's going to give us an update from the Milwaukee County Courthouse. We've heard from, I think, about a half dozen witnesses so far today. Maybe it's a half dozen. One was a recall, Casey Donahue. All of them Milwaukee Police Department detectives. We have the case laying out, or the state once again laying out this sort of methodical case. But as they do, you start talking about things like human remains that are being found, particularly the remains of a young woman whose family is in the gallery watching this. We know at one moment, at one point, the mother of Sade Robinson stood up and was walked out of the courtroom by a victim witness coordinator. Our Bill Miston, who's there in the courtroom, described it as her eyes being almost closed, her hands behind her back. It seemed as though she had been overcome potentially with emotion from watching this testimony. It's obviously difficult material, but we want to bring you every bit of it here on Fox 6 News and here from the Fox 6 Wisconsin live desk. I am going to take a break. When we come back, we have Ben Handelman, who is in the field. Like I say, he is outside the Milwaukee County Courthouse. He's going to set the scene for us out there and tell us a little more about what's been happening in the trial of Maxwell Anderson. We will do that when we
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And good afternoon. I'm Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk. Day 4 of the Maxwell Anderson trial. He is on trial for the death, dismemberment, and attempted concealing of a corpse of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. This is all happening down at the Milwaukee County Courthouse Complex, actually the Milwaukee County Safety Building. And our Ben Handelman is out there right now outside the safety building. Ben, thank you for joining us here on Wild, and tell us a little bit about what's happening in your location right now. What are you seeing out there?
While I'm talking here, you're going to hear beeping of horns, and this is why some supporters of Sade Robinson have gathered at this corner. This individual's got a bullhorn. He's playing music out here, and as cars have gone by, they're beeping their horns out here. I'm with Eddie Poser, our photojournalist, but I just want to set the scene of how this is all playing out down here. So, I mean, if you've ever been down here to the county courthouse complex, that is the safety building, okay? On the 6th floor is where this is happening. That is where the court is. Just to the west of that, that is the Milwaukee County Jail. That's where Maxwell Anderson is spending his nights, as that's where he is in jail and then comes over to the safety building every day. And then obviously on the 6th floor is where Crivello's courtroom is, way up there. So that's where all of the media is, family members and supporters. Then down here, District 1 Police Station, that's the police headquarters here. And then this here is where, I mean, you can see these are supporters of Sade Robinson, family, friends, and even strangers who just felt compelled to show their support for the family. They've come out here with signs as we're on the break here, but they've got a tent. They've been out here really wanting, there's been a push to show support for the family. Okay, I want to talk about what happened in the courtroom today, Brian, and talk this out with you because I thought it was really fascinating. We got this kind of parade of Milwaukee homicide detectives, and you can hear the state, they continue to try and piece together this timeline. And today's focus in this morning session on day 4 really was the area around the burnt out car and that playground area. And this is not your normal playground. This is on the northwest side. The police department described this, there's train tracks down below, kind of as a dumping area in Milwaukee. They showed pictures of the scene. There's trash that's covering the entire area. And I thought that was interesting because it brought up a key question I had months ago as we were learning some of the details of this case, because the police department got a report of well, actually in today's in the courtroom today, we kind of got a sense of how they ended up there, and that is what the state was trying to piece together for the jury. How did they find the area by that playground on the northwest side? Well, they were using surveillance cameras, as police were, again, they've documented this. It all started with a leg that washed up in Cudahy. They had the missing persons report of Sade Robinson. They suddenly had a suspect vehicle. They started canvassing the area, and police officers eventually were able to kind of track that vehicle's location. What they were showing in court today, we saw some new surveillance video of the car kind of circling around this neighborhood where it would eventually be found burnt out. And through the canvassing, they were able to find this second location where eventually remains of Sade Robinson were found. But what was interesting is that after police canvassed the area, they left, and it was these people. It was community members and friends and family of Sade Robinson found out police were in that area. They went back to the area, and they ended up finding a blanket with Sade Robinson's face on it, called police. Police canvassed the area again, and then all sorts of new things were found. More remains were found, more items related to this case. So there was a gap. And Brian, I'll get your take on this. I thought it was an opening for the defense, because the defense, obviously, they don't need to prove who killed Sade Robinson. Their goal here is to sow doubt and just prove there's not enough evidence to convict Maxwell Anderson. And one of the questions is, well, geez, you had all these detectives out there looking through the area. How did they not find a bright pink blanket with her face on it? And I thought it was really interesting. We could talk about the police department's response and the prosecutor's response, but I did think it was an opening, a predictable one for the defense today in court.
Well, and that's what the defense has said from the beginning is, was Maxwell Anderson in the wrong place at the wrong time? Perhaps, but the state has the burden of proof here, and you're right. The fact that they didn't find these remains hours after the car was found having been set on fire, it was days later. It's after this blanket's found. They go back, they find these remains. By the time they found them, Maxwell Anderson's already in custody. So you heard Tony Cotton say today, well, did you find anything before April 5th? Did you find anything before April 6th? No, we didn't. And it seems he's indicating that, well, he's already in jail by then. So why did it take 3 or 4 days to find the remains over here? Now, I would imagine police and prosecutors may point to the fact that this is not your typical crime scene. There's not one location. This isn't 1 or 2 blocks. This is all over the city. And of course, the first body part is found all the way down in Warnemount Park in Cudahy. So in terms of canvassing, they had huge areas to cover. But like you said, that it is family members and friends that were able to zero in and find it certainly makes it look like police missed something up there.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the question that the defense is pointing out. Did the cops screw up here? How do you miss a pink blanket with Sade Robinson's face on it? But I will say, the state, they honed in on this. They knew that would come up, and they showed some of the pictures and the timeline. Because when Milwaukee police detectives first went out there through their canvassing, and they found the first body part by the playground, it was nighttime. It was a very raw spring day in Milwaukee. It was wet out there. The terrain was hilly, and this area is covered, and I mean covered, in trash. So as a detective, you're trying to determine what is evidence, what is not evidence on what they're describing as a dumping ground by the train tracks here in Milwaukee. And so when they did that first canvass, they did miss things. They missed body parts that were out there, according to the prosecutors. The defense is saying, well, wait a second, that's opening up a window for, did someone, after cops had been there and Maxwell Anderson was already in custody, go back out and maybe put things there, or did those items suddenly appear? But the area that was covered, and there was a lot of focus on this morning, really interesting by that playground, where the blanket, and they took the blanket out as a piece of evidence, and one of the detectives held it up today, and we saw the blanket with Sade's face. And the question is, okay, police, how did you miss this? Their response, well, the blanket with her face, you couldn't see her face when it was on the ground. It was just
that's
a pink
the blanket right there
among a sea of trash.
We're seeing the blanket right now.
So as you're seeing it now on your screen, that's not how it was laying, unless you're seeing the pictures of it on the ground. It was kind of just in this sea of trash. And so detectives noticed there was a blanket there, but did not connect the dots that it was Sade Robinson's blanket until, again, these family members or these community members went out there and did their own canvass and found the blanket themselves. So they were the ones who found the blanket, called police up and were like, hey, we found Sade's blanket near this playground. You guys need to come back out. And then police came back out. There was daylight. They found a lot more evidence. Something else that struck me today, Brian, a reminder that this is a gruesome, grisly crime, and that a 19-year-old woman was the victim in all of this. This was a tough day for the jury. This was a very tough day for the family of Sade Robinson, because in that park, they are showing the evidence that they found, and we're talking pieces of human remains. This was, I mean, we're talking small pieces of flesh, and they're showing the pictures to the jury. And I was not in the courtroom at this time, but Bill Miston, who's been covering this trial and doing an amazing job, he says at some of those moments that were really difficult today, Sade Robinson's mother, she got up with one of the victim's witness coordinators and left the courtroom for those images. She did not want to see what was happening. But it's just a reminder, Brian, that this is not an ordinary homicide case. This is something really grisly happened with this murder.
Well, and we talked about this on our recording of Open Record, which will be released later today and be running on Fox 6, the television channel. It'll be running on the air this weekend on Sunday night. But we talked about it with Fox 6 News content manager Amanda St. Hilaire, who said, there's an expectation for true crime lovers that you're going to get the grisly details and you're going to see the graphic photos and because we're used to a lot of that. Maybe on a streaming service we see a show that's about a crime from years ago or from far away. But this is right here in our community. This is someone who was a resident of our community and who has family who are still here. And it's a reminder that there's a real person behind this and there's a real family hurting. So it's a very difficult level of what we have, the line we have to walk in terms of what we're showing you. The jury has to see everything, but there is no real journalistic need for us to show you over and over again the most graphic and grisly photos, because there's some real sensitivity we have to balance with. This is a real person here who was killed in probably one of the worst ways imaginable.
And Brian, you and I have covered a lot of homicide trials in our time as journalists, and I gotta say, just listening to the testimony, I did not look at the images this morning. Gut-wrenching. I mean, my stomach dropped at some of the descriptions of what was found on that playground on the northwest side of Milwaukee. Really difficult to hear some of the details coming out of court today. Something that was really interesting too, and I was talking to Bill Miston about this, and we talked actually with Jonathan Lavoie. He's a legal expert, he's a defense attorney here in Milwaukee. The reaction from Maxwell Anderson as this trial is going on, and his facial reaction, because the jury is watching that, and they are seeing how he's reacting to some of these terrible images. Some of the burnt out clothes that were coming out of the car, the description, and it's been a blank face, Brian. I don't know if you've noticed this as well.
I was actually watching
really
comments.
No reaction.
I was watching comments on the Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube channel as comments are just coming in live, and there were a lot of comments. This guy's so stoic. Why doesn't he have a reaction to anything? People are certainly noticing that. The question is whether or not the jury is picking up on that and whether it has any influence, right?
Right, and I was talking to Jonathan Lavoie about this. He's a defense attorney, right? I mean, he meets with clients. He's had people who are been convicted of murders and are accused of murders. And I asked him, I mean, do you sit down with your client beforehand and talk to him about your body language and your reaction before the trial as you go in? And he said, yeah, it's so important, because that jury, they are humans. They are picking up on that. And his reaction to what he's seeing from Maxwell Anderson, not good. If I was his lawyer, this would not be good, because
I mentioned this in talking to Julius Kim on the podcast this morning. There are extremes, right? Because the other extreme is a Darrell Brooks, who was so animated that it was just beyond and out of control. Very extreme. No one would ever say you should behave that way in a courtroom. But obviously Maxwell Anderson is the complete opposite, where there seems to be almost no reaction, no emotion. Very rarely does he really seem to be taking note of what is happening, other than maybe kind of tilting his head to look up at evidence on the screen. But certainly we've seen our viewers are making note of that.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us, if you're not from the area, you're watching on YouTube or Fox Local from somewhere else, Darrell Brooks, that's the individual who plowed through the Waukesha Christmas parade, killing 6 people. And then he decided to be his own lawyer during the case. One of the wildest trials we've ever seen, because it was basically just an outburst the entire time he was inside the courtroom. That's not what we have here. We got Maxwell Anderson basically sitting there quiet. We see him writing notes at times. But yeah, this is a very different trial. And you're right. I mean, does it help, hurt him, or maybe no effect? Only the jurors will know what kind of effect it has on them. But I can tell, Brian, we can see now, day 4 of this trial, what the state is trying to do. And this has been a slow unveiling of the timeline. And now I think we're at the most crucial part of the timeline. Because if you are tuning into this trial and you're hoping to find out what happened inside that house, or what didn't happen inside that house, I don't think we're going to get that. No DNA evidence, no murder weapon
You're right.
found. No, so we're not going to get that. What is important is, okay, so if we don't know what happened inside the house, and the prosecution's still trying to say Maxwell Anderson is the only person who could have done this, why was he by Sade Robinson's burnt out car on the north side of Milwaukee in the middle of the morning after their first date, didn't have his cell phone because the cell phone was pinged back at his house. So you can tell the prosecution, they are zeroing in on this surveillance video that did capture him. We saw him on a Milwaukee County bus. There are no better cameras in Milwaukee County than a Milwaukee County bus. Those buses have better camera systems than banks around here. But then, even in the northwest side, they're saying this is a high crime area of Milwaukee. How many cameras picked up on the car? Now, we have not been able to see Maxwell Anderson inside the car while it's driving around, but we are seeing the surveillance images shortly after that shows someone walking around that the prosecution say, that is him. And you zeroed in on the clothing that the person in those surveillance videos was picked up on, and you can tell that the prosecution's trying to say, okay, if the defense is saying reasonable doubt, we don't know what happened in the house, well, why would Maxwell Anderson be in this part of Milwaukee by Sade Robinson's burned out car at these hours that really seem to tee up and time the perfect timeline with Cudahy, where the leg was found at Warnemont Park, northwest side. You can see the slow timeline now from prosecutors, and the story's starting to accelerate.
And it seems like, Ben, ultimately then what this comes down to, because I don't think you're right. We're not going to get the satisfying answer of exactly when, where, and how Sade Robinson was killed. The evidence just isn't there. If Maxwell Anderson knows, he's not going to say it. He's not going to take the stand and open himself to cross-examination. So what that leaves us with is maybe the state can't put a weapon in his hand. Maybe they can't say exactly when and where it happened. Is that enough for reasonable doubt? Or is, like you say, the fact that he's right by the car, if the jury ends up believing this evidence, they say, yep, that picture on the bus, the guy with the backpack going by the playground where the remains are, the guy who lit the fire, that's him. If they believe that, is that enough to say no reasonable person could imagine anybody else did this? And that's what it's going to come down to. It really is going to be 12 jurors in a room. If one of them says, right, I think there's the possibility somebody else did this, maybe he helped, but somebody else did it, that could shut down the case. But that's, I think, what it's going to come down to in the end.
I do want to bring something else up that I know you've talked about in your coverage. Before this case started, there were, excuse me, the truck goes by. Before this case started, there were court documents that talked about a confidential informant that had come forward and said he was with Maxwell Anderson weeks before the crime, and that Maxwell Anderson said he wanted to kill Sade Robinson, and then basically described a surgical unit, you could say, in his basement. I mean, we're talking plastic, saws, weapons. None of that has been brought up during the trial. I asked Jonathan Lavoie, again, our defense expert, who's a defense lawyer, about that. It has not been brought up in opening statements. It has not been brought up at all during this trial. And he was saying anonymous, confidential informants, very risky, very unreliable, and some of those details with the court documents haven't really made sense with this case. I mean, it doesn't seem like Maxwell Anderson and Sade Robinson knew each other a long time before this. This was a first date. They met through kind of mutual friends that had hooked them up for this date. So we haven't heard from that confidential informant, and our defense expert does not believe, because a lot of people have been asking about that court documents, that's going to be part of this case.
I think you're right, Ben, and we talked about it with Julius Kim this morning as you look at some of Sade Robinson's supporters there outside the safety building getting attention from passersby. Ben, we talked about it with Julius Kim because that confidential informant, we don't know who it was. That's why they're a confidential informant. It was that person's statement was used, whoever this was that came forward, that statement was used as probable cause to convince a judge that police needed to go back in for a second time to Anderson's home and look for evidence that they didn't find the first time. And we know that what they got that second time was they actually pulled some of the PVC piping out from under a utility sink in the basement of that home. The statement indicated there had been plastic around this utility sink, and it appears they were looking to perhaps there's some DNA. Maybe there was some blood washed down the sink and there'd be some remnants there. I would imagine if they found that, we would have heard about that in opening statements. So the suggestion is they didn't get anything more, and in the end they determined that that statement was not credible, which is why we haven't heard anything about it in trial. It's probably why we're not going to hear anything more about it. Who was it that came forward? We don't know. They said it was someone who had given reliable information in other cases, but we don't really have any way of evaluating that. Not sure if I've lost Ben, if you can hear me right now any longer, but I think we're going to go ahead and give Ben a break because for the last 20... Oh, can you hear me now?
Okay, I can, yeah. Eddie Poser with the win here. I put my IFB in, yeah, it hung up on me there.
No
Brian,
problem.
Just back to that point.
Yeah.
I want to bring this up because I think it's important when we're talking about this confidential informant and the jurors. It's a clean slate when you go in the courtroom, and we have to remember that. This case has been covered so heavily in the media, and really from the get-go when that body part was found in Warnemont Park and this whole story began. This has been so covered in the media, and this is also the challenge that this judge and the justice system is facing. Everything that's been reported before this case doesn't matter. All that matters is what is brought into evidence for the jurors during this case. At least that's what you hope, and that is why they try and be so thorough in the process of picking these jurors and asking them what they've heard, what they know. Because again, I mean, if you're a juror and you heard about that confidential informant piece of information that's in the back of your head, that doesn't make you a very good juror now, does it, as you're trying to really be unbiased. So I think it's a good reminder of what the legal justice system is, that whatever you've heard before, you kind of have to wipe your brain clean and start from the very beginning when the gavel strikes down in this case.
You know, it's so interesting, Ben, because there's a lot of activity and noise going on behind you. And this time yesterday, we had Fox 6's Stephanie Quirk on from down there, and there was none of this. So clearly, supporters have come out today in force, and they are making themselves seen and heard. Ben, I'm going to give you a break for a while. Thank you for helping us out here in our coverage. We're going to come back to you in a little bit because court is expected to return a little after 1:30 today. We got another half hour to go. We're going to talk about some other things back here, but we will take a break. And from our coverage right now, we're going to take a quick break. We will come back and we'll return to Ben in a little while here from the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And I am Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk. Day 4 of the trial of Maxwell Anderson in the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson here in Milwaukee. It is day 4 of testimony. We have heard from about a half dozen witnesses so far today, all of them detectives from the Milwaukee Police Department Homicide Unit. And as you heard Ben talking about there a moment ago, much of the testimony today focused in and around the area of the car that was found burned out. Sade Robinson's 2020 Honda Civic found burned out behind an abandoned building at 29th and Lisbon. And in that area, ultimately about a block or two away, human remains found near 31st and Galena. It was April 5th, April 6th. And that all came after family and community members in support of Sade Robinson had gone to search that area themselves. They came across what they say was Sade's blanket. We saw that pink blanket presented in court today. There it is once again. That is the blanket that family members say they found near that park. Now again, Ben did a good job of pointing out that this playground we're talking about in that area, you might imagine it's this clean space where kids and families are every day. How could no one see this for days? Well, in fact, it's not a playground that was very active. It's one that was covered in trash. And it is one that Ben, as he reported, it's been discussed, it's become somewhat of a dumping ground in the city. And even though police officers were canvassing that area after the car fire, they were canvassing a fairly large area and apparently did not come across this. We do have, and I want to bring this up for a moment once again, we do have the locations where some of these remains were found. If you're looking at the screen now, up is north and down is south, as you would imagine with most maps. That playground you see there on the left, the tree line and the railroad tracks are where these remains were found on and around April 5th or 6th, which is 4 to 5 days after the homicide would have taken place, in theory, and also several days after that car had been found on fire just a short time away. To the north and east, so the up and to the right on your screen would be where the car was burned out, and directly to the north of that tree line. Immediately on the north side of the tree line, you would see that's where this image comes in. This is what the Milwaukee Police Department says they believe is Maxwell Anderson carrying a backpack, wearing a hoodie. You see the dark colored pants and then those shoes with light colored soles. This railing you see is right over those railroad tracks. So if he were to, from where whoever this person is walking, were to turn left, go across the bridge and turn left, they would be right into that tree line. Go a little further and they would be in the playground area. So this is someone who is walking away from the scene where the car fire was and then walking toward the place where some of those remains were found. The suggestion certainly is that inside that backpack, with his stuffed full of something, that those may in fact be Sade Robinson's remains. This was really tough testimony today, and so it is stuff that, as you heard Ben say, was difficult for Sade Robinson's family members to hear. And while the court is equipped with a number of cameras, I want to bring up this shot. This is one of the prosecutors, an assistant or deputy DA there, as she's doing her questioning. But you can see behind her Robinson's family members who are there in the gallery, and the person who is in the bottom left in the jean jacket, that is Sade Robinson's mother. We were told by Bill Miston, who is in the courtroom and has been from the beginning of this trial, told that he saw at one point Sade Robinson's mother during some of the really graphic testimony of what was discovered in the park area, that she got up and she was walked out of the courtroom with a victim witness coordinator supporting her, had her hands behind her back, looked like her eyes were mostly closed. You obviously can only imagine what this testimony must be like for family members, particularly a heartbroken mother who is there to learn the fate of her daughter's accused killer. So that is really what we saw most of during the morning session. There was, toward the end of that session, of the morning testimony, a number of videos we saw showing the blue Honda Civic, the 2020 blue Honda Civic, Sade Robinson's car, driving around, circling around the north side of Milwaukee in and around the area where it was ultimately set afire and where some of these remains were found. Although defense attorney Tony Cotton did point out, he asked the question, is there any tracking or video that shows that car driving by the playground? And the detective said there is not. They couldn't find video beyond that bridge that we showed you, where you have the person they believe is Maxwell Anderson walking toward the playground. They could not find other videos. and there was nothing on the Life 360 or any of the other digital evidence that they received that showed that vehicle directly going past the playground. Now, if he did it on foot, it would explain why you wouldn't have had maybe the Life 360 data from her phone. In fact, by the time he got to the north side, based on the prosecution's theory of events, her phone had already died and lost its battery back on the south side near Warnermount Park, so there wouldn't be any evidence showing the car going past the playground there. But the defense seems to be raising for the jury and trying to poke a hole in the prosecution's theory of events that there is nothing proving that that blue car went by there or that, in fact, Maxwell Anderson went to that park at any point in time. It's really in some ways going to come down to whether or not the jury believes that person walking is Maxwell Anderson. He is the person who was later spotted, and we haven't seen this yet. We will see this coming up at trial. We have not yet seen the photo from the Milwaukee County Transit bus, and it's probably going to be more than a photo. It might well be video, showing him boarding a bus in the vicinity of where all of this happened and then taking it back down to a bus stop that is in the vicinity of his home. And so the question would be, what was Maxwell Anderson doing near where the car was burned out if he had nothing to do with this? We already know that back during voir dire, that is when the attorneys are asking potential jurors questions, that defense attorney Cotton raised the question of, have you ever been in the wrong place at the wrong time? Kind of planting the seed that it's possible for someone to look guilty but not be guilty. That seems to be where the defense is going with this, that yeah, we get the state has a lot of evidence that shows stuff that looks bad, but do they have the smoking gun? Can they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was Maxwell Anderson who killed and dismembered Sade Robinson? In the defense's favor, there is no known crime scene in terms of where the death or the homicide took place. The suggestion seems to be it was at his home because they were there for a couple of hours after the date, but they couldn't find any evidence, blood evidence of Sade Robinson's to demonstrate that it happened there. And we don't know where else it might have. There's never been a crime scene found in terms of where the dismemberment took place, which you would imagine would be something that would produce a lot of blood and therefore DNA evidence. In that sense, prosecutors just don't have a story to tell. So they're instead trying to connect as many dots as possible about the timeline of events from the date at 5 o'clock at Twisted Fisherman to the time they spent at Duke's on Water, which is another bar in Milwaukee, to the time they spent back at Maxwell Anderson's home, which looks like it went till around midnight, 1 in the morning, and then whatever happened after that before her leg was ultimately found. Car was found burned out on the north side the next day. Her leg is found the next afternoon, and she's reported missing that night. One more thing I want to talk about. I'm going to take another break. When we come back, there is one other thing that came up on day 3. Day 2 of testimony, but day 3 of the trial yesterday. We talked a bit about that yesterday, and that is evidence that police found inside Sade Robinson's apartment, but that didn't make an appearance in the state's case or in the criminal complaint. The defense has made an issue of that. They introduced it as evidence, and it's caused a stir with the Robinson family and produced a statement from their attorney. We're going to talk about all of that when we come right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk, Day 4 of the Maxwell Anderson trial and the death of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. One thing I didn't talk about yet this afternoon that I want to bring back up. Yesterday, we talked about police when they first responded to Sade Robinson's apartment. That is Brewers Point Apartments right next to Lakefront Brewery in the Lower East Side of Milwaukee. Police were showing video from her leaving the apartment and arriving at work that day, but they also talked about when she was first reported missing. So she went on the date on April 1st, and the next day she didn't show up for work at Pizza Shuttle. Co-workers and friends became worried about her, especially when they looked at their Life 360 apps and saw that her phone appeared to be dead down in Warnemount Park in Cudahy. And so they became concerned. They ultimately went to police and filed a missing persons report on April 2nd. And police went to check out that house or that apartment to see if they could find any clues to the whereabouts of Sade Robinson. When they got inside, they found really nothing that was obviously troubling. They didn't find any cause for alarm in terms of the sign of a struggle. They didn't find any evidence of a break-in or anything like that. This was the inside of the apartment. You see the closet right there. Her bed is there off to the left. It's a studio apartment, not very big, appropriate for a college student, which she was at the time at MATC. Inside the apartment somewhere, and I'm not sure if it was in that closet or in another location, but the police say they found a safe, and that safe was locked, and they were able to get that safe open, and inside they did find narcotics. They referred to them as 47 pills of meth, though they didn't really specify what they meant by meth pills. We did talk to one expert who suggested it's a possibility that could have been something like, maybe it was amphetamines like Ritalin or something else, or perhaps it was, in fact, street drugs pressed into pills. We really don't know because it was never tested at the Wisconsin Crime Lab. But the defense wanted that entered as evidence. It was in a police report, but the prosecution hadn't brought it up. The defense wanted to enter that as evidence, and they talked about this off the record yesterday, or on the record, but outside the jury's presence, I should say. And the judge asked, why do you want this in? The state objected, said this is totally irrelevant. This has nothing, there was no drugs found in Sade's system. What does this have to do with anything? And the defense said, well, their theory is wrong place, wrong time. Their theory is that maybe somebody else must have done this, and if that's the case, then the possibility she might have purchased drugs from someone, that she might have had a part of her life she wasn't telling others about, maybe even her closest friends didn't know about, that it might suggest she was mixed up with people who could have been a danger to her, people potentially other than Maxwell Anderson. The judge she essentially performed a balancing test. There's the possibility that introducing that evidence could be prejudicial against the defense, or against the prosecution, could be prejudicial in sort of coloring her character for the jury in a way that was not relevant to the case. On the other hand, the judge found it was relevant, particularly because of the defense's attempt to say somebody else must have done this. They don't have to prove somebody else did it, but they do want to raise that reasonable doubt. Now, the Robinson family responded, and they sent out a message. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. An attorney for the Robinson family said yesterday, quote, this is Verona Swanigan, who was the Robinson family attorney, said, this is not a case about drugs. The police testified that the drugs were irrelevant, that the murder was not in any way associated to drugs. The investigation flushed out it was not related to drugs, and to bring up drugs that have never been tested, so we don't even know if they actually were drugs, is highly prejudicial to the victim, and it's a red herring to the jury. Again, that was the Robinson family attorney, Verona Swanigan, as that was sent to Fox 6 reporter Bria Jones. So just wanted to mention that is something that has been raised in the case. It was introduced as evidence. It's something the jury has now heard. Will it have any particular sway or impact? That remains to be seen, but it was something that happened yesterday. So it is 1:19 now. Today they said the court plans to return at 1:30. The last couple of days it's been closer to 1:50. We'll see where that goes. So we've got some more time to get you back up to speed. And we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're going to take you back out to the Milwaukee County Courthouse and Safety Building, the courthouse complex. Outside we have Fox 6's Ben Handelman. We'll talk to him once again when we come.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm here along with Delaney Reed, working back in the studio control room, helping get you all of the pictures and graphics that are appropriate here. And we have Fox 6's Ben Handelman, who is outside the Milwaukee County Courthouse complex near the safety building. He is out there today once again to tell us what is happening in and around the trial of Maxwell Anderson. Ben, what are you seeing right now?
And I just wanted to tell our viewers, you may hear honking from times, and that is because there are supporters of Sade Robinson's family. There are friends here, family, and honestly, there are strangers out here, just community members who wanted to show their support for the family. So they've set up across from the safety building. They've got signs, and we've kind of heard just ongoing honking throughout this lunch hour as everybody's on break here. Just to recap of where we are, okay, this is State Street here, downtown Milwaukee. This is the safety building. 6th floor is where this courthouse is. That's the very top of the courthouse. That's Judge Crivello's courtroom. That's where all the action is happening. Just to the west of that, that's the Milwaukee County Jail. That's where Maxwell Anderson is spending time. That's where he's spending his nights. That's where he is locked up. So every day, all these buildings here have tunnel systems. So he's being moved from the county jail over to the safety building. This is Police District 1, Police Administration Building right next door. And that's important for what we saw today, Brian, because we saw a parade of Milwaukee police detectives go into the courtroom as witnesses as they focused in, again, on the north side of Milwaukee, the burning car, and really interesting stuff from what they're describing as the playground area. There is a playground, but this is not your ordinary playground because detectives describing it as a dumping area of Milwaukee. Trash was found there, and that's where they found Sade Robinson's remains on 2 different occasions. Brian, I heard you talking about something really interesting that's happened in this trial, and I want to talk to you about it. The drugs in Sade Robinson's apartment, that's been the most controversial piece of evidence that the defense and prosecutors, they were fighting over. Prosecutors did not want that brought up in court. This is not a drug case. And I was asking Jonathan Lavoie, a defense attorney who is one of our legal experts with us on this case. Okay, Sade Robinson was brutally murdered and dismembered. Who cares what they find in her apartment? But Jonathan Lavoie said that was a key part of this trial, that the judge allowed that evidence to be submitted. Why? Well, the defense obviously wants this submitted because, again, they don't have to say who killed Sade Robinson, but in their estimation, if they can bring the drugs into the case, they can bring up to the jury, well, geez, if she's got drugs in her apartment, maybe there's a dangerous individual she's associated with. We don't know. But what I thought Jonathan Lavoie made a really interesting point, that if the judge did not allow the evidence into this case, that would have been something that would have been appealable, meaning whatever happens with this trial, after all the evidence that we've been through in the appellate process, that could be brought up, and that could be a case for the appeals for them to have to come in and maybe redo this trial again, and that's what nobody wants. So I thought it was important that they did bring it up. How the jury took that evidence, what importance they find that Sade Robinson, there were drugs found in her apartment, we may never know.
Well, it feels like, that, as you're saying, and as Jonathan Lavoie said, it's what Julius Kim told us on Open Record, is that it may have been the judge erring on the side of caution, because if you exclude that evidence, now you've given a very key point for appeal. But including the evidence could still be something that's problematic in this case for the prosecution. Does it actually, does it serve to underscore the defense's theory that it could have been somebody else? Or does it simply work as sort of a character attack that Sade Robinson isn't the all-American girl she's been painted to be? I think many would say that's an unfair way of characterizing it, but what Julius Kim did point out is, we've heard from a number of her friends, people who knew Sade Robinson very well. They didn't seem to know anything about Maxwell Anderson or her going on a date with Maxwell Anderson or being involved with a guy named Maxwell Anderson. And so his point of view as a defense attorney is, this could be further suggestion that maybe there was a part of Sade Robinson's life she wasn't letting everyone else know about. If in fact these were illegal drugs, then is there something that maybe she was keeping from others, and could that be enough of that seed of doubt for a juror? So for the defense, that was an important element. Obviously, the Robinson family feels it was highly inappropriate.
Yeah. I want to talk about the defense attorney because Maxwell Anderson has gone out and got himself a competent defense attorney, Tony Cotton. This is a man who's Morgan Geiser's attorney. If you know that case, that is the Slender Man trial. Really high-profile case here in Waukesha. A little girl was stabbed by her friends because they were following the fictional character Slender Man. Tony Cotton is the attorney for one of the girls who was stabbing the other girl. Mental health issues, has recently got her out of Mendota, the health hospital. So he's gotten a competent attorney here. Now, you've mentioned this, and this is breaking news today, that according to you, and Brian, back me up on the reporting here, the Waukesha Police Department, they're investigating threats that have been made against Tony Cotton, the defense attorney. And I have been watching some of the comments, especially on our YouTube channel, and this often happens during a high-profile case. How could someone defend such a heinous person if you believe what prosecutors are saying? And I do think it's important. I mean, in this justice system, where the consequences are you were throwing people away in prison for the rest of their lives, you hope that they get it right. You hope that the jury comes to the right conclusion. So you would hope that there are competent attorneys on both sides, because you want everything to be flushed out, and that whenever a decision is made at the end of any criminal case, that whatever the jury has come to the conclusion, it is the right decision. So you hope there are competent people from both the prosecutors and the defense. So pretty disturbing that we're hearing possible threats being made against the defense team here.
Well, I'll say a couple of things to this, Ben. One thing I do want to clarify is I think we should be cautious and use the singular term, a threat. We don't know that there have been multiple threats. Okay. We do know for sure there's been one threat, and that was a phone call from a blocked number that, according to Waukesha police, was made to Tony Cotton's law firm, which is located in Waukesha. And that it was a pretty, direct quote or direct threat. If Tony doesn't drop the bleeping case, and I'm censoring there, I'm going to kill his bleeping son. So it's not only a threat to him, it's a threat to his family. And that's something that obviously police are going to take very seriously. But I will say this, for those who ask that question, because I asked this question of Julius Kim as well, what do you say when people say, how can you defend someone who is perceived by others as a monster? How do you do that? especially if you know there's a possibility that they're guilty. How do you bring, and he said, in his view, the system we have works best when both sides put their best foot forward and the jury gets to make a decision. A jury of the peers gets to make that decision. But it's important that both sides put that best case forward. And it's actually important for the administration of justice, because if he doesn't have a competent attorney, if he has someone who's no good at their job, he has all sorts of avenues for appeal for ineffective assistance of counsel. So Tony Cotton is doing what the system requires. And I'm not trying to stand up for one side or the other. I'm just pointing out that that is why our system works this way. He is making sure that he has received the best assistance possible. And if in the end he's found guilty, then that's what the system finds. But if he does a poor job, a lazy job, or if he says, I'm not helping this guy out, and nobody steps forward, well, then you're going to have a tough time putting him away in our current system of justice. It is actually part of the ability to put someone away for a crime that they have the most effective defense counsel possible.
And also this reporting also showing how high emotions are right now on this case. Brian, in court, I mean, we saw all sorts of new surveillance video, especially of Sade Robinson's car circling that northwest side of Milwaukee neighborhood. But I think one of the most interesting things that was pointed out, and we knew it would show up in this trial, these people. How these people have, the supporters of Sade Robinson, when police went out and canvassed a scene, they found some things, but it was supporters who learned that there was a canvass, went back out, and actually it was supporters and family members of Sade Robinson that found even more evidence and called police, and that has become crucial evidence in this case, some of which was displayed in the courtroom today. I thought one of the most striking moments this morning was when a Milwaukee police detective opened up an evidence bag and they brought out the pink blanket of Sade Robinson's face on it that was found near this playground, kind of in this dumping area of Milwaukee, and there were remains, her remains were found near the blanket, and that was not found by the police department. That was found by supporters who were back out in that park. They were the ones who realized that blanket was Sade Robinson's. Now, we talked about this. This did open up an avenue for the defense to say, well, geesh, how did the Milwaukee Police Department canvass an area and not find a bright pink blanket with Sade Robinson's face on it? And we talked about what kind of an area that was. I mean, there was trash everywhere in this area, and the police department said, well, yeah, we saw the blanket, we didn't see her face on it. You had to kind of open up the blanket to see that, and it was just one of thousands of pieces of items laying in this area. So that was the kind of the give and take that I thought was really one of the most fascinating parts of what happened here on day 4.
You know, Ben, I want to actually talk about those people behind you, because you notice that they're wearing pink, right? A lot of them are dressed in pink, and some might say, well, why aren't you up there in the courtroom supporting Sade Robinson? Well, the judge actually made a point of saying that Robinson's supporters could not wear pink in the courtroom because she didn't want any display. Judges don't want any display, outward displays of support for either side. The gallery is usually very tightly controlled by a judge, especially in a case like this with such high emotions. So the wear pink supporters are out there where they can do this and they can rally that support. They're doing it out on the street outside the courtroom. That explains why everyone's there in pink. It is there to support the victim, in this case, Sade Robinson.
And the reason they're wearing pink, Brian, because pink, we were told from family members, that is Sade Robinson, that was her favorite color. So there's actually a mural too. So we're downtown area of Milwaukee. On the east side is where she worked. That's the Pizza Shuttle restaurant. It's a pizza place that she worked. There's a mural there, and that's another place people have gone to bring flowers, and the family and supporters are asking, please bring pink flowers, because that was her favorite color. So we have seen kind of multiple areas of the city. What's really interesting, and I don't think should be lost on this, is how many different areas this case covers. Because, especially with the family, there's been talk of maybe building a memorial in Warnemont Park down in Cudahy, where this all started when a severed limb was found there on a beach. But this area also goes to Milwaukee, and we're talking several areas. There's the part where the burnt out car was found. There were remains found nearby there. There's this, I guess we could describe as a playground park area. That's where a lot of the evidence was found. We're talking several different locations that this case entails, and several different days, Brian, because the timeline that's been really unveiled by the prosecutors slowly, this wasn't a one-day thing, like, okay, we found this, oh, everything's wrapped up, guys in jail, there we go. This was a several-day investigation as new things popped up every single day, and as we covered it from the media, it's kept us on our toes, because during those April days, every single day it seemed, Brian, we were coming in and there was something new with the case, and a lot of it was because the supporters, the family members of Sade Robinson, were out canvassing as well as police. There were so many people out there, and they were finding things, and we're hearing that now be brought up during this trial.
Well, and you mentioned all the different locations, which it's not a typical crime scene where you've got one location to rope off and focus on, and then it's done. It's inside an apartment. It's at one location outside a house. This was all over the city. It was all over the county, and we know that some of Sade Robinson's remains washed up along the Lake Michigan shoreline as far away as Waukegan, Illinois. Waukegan Beach, there was an arm that surfaced there. That was another controversy in this case when an alderman in Waukegan somehow got a hold of a photograph of the arm having washed up and sent that out on social media, and that thing went out all over the place. And of course the family was really upset because they didn't know this photo was going to be released in any way. So it was leaked to this alderman somehow, and then he sent it out, and there were people calling for his job. But that just tells you the expansiveness of this investigation, that you have remains washing up an entire state away, and there are still parts of Sade Robinson that have never been found, most notably
that's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are watching this trial, Brian, and they're hoping we're going to find out everything that happened that night, okay? Because we know they went on a date. We don't know what happened after that. And I think unfortunately, we're going to leave this trial, we're not going to know all the answers because we don't know what happened in that house. And from the evidence shown in the trial so far, and including in the opening statements, you think it would be brought up, it doesn't seem like investigators have a true grasp on even where the crime scene is, because we don't have DNA evidence. And we're talking about really a grisly crime. And if that happened inside of his house, and it has been brought up, and this will be a key witness from the defense, we know there was another person in that house because it's kind of a split unit property, and that's going to be a big part of this case. There was someone else, not a roommate because it's a different part of the house, but a light sleeper who didn't hear anything. So we don't even know where the crime occurred. We do know obviously it happened, but I think for people who are tuning in thinking, man, I'm going to get all the answers now, they're not going to get that. And we heard in the opening statements from the prosecutor saying, use your common sense. And that's going to be brought up, I think, now as we move forward. Okay, so now they've got this slow timeline. Okay, the common sense is, what was Maxwell Anderson doing on the northwest side by Sade Robinson's burnt out car if he's trying to claim he had nothing to do with this, that he didn't commit this crime? And you could tell that the prosecutors, they're getting ready to ramp this up and really start to hit home that the common sense part of this. But as far as we're going to know all the details about what happened, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think that's an interesting point you make, Ben, because I think most of us want to have that satisfying end where we get the mystery is solved. We know what happened. I don't know at this point that we're ever going to get that. Now, perhaps at some point, maybe additional remains surface. Maybe there's more of a story of how she was killed. Maybe some additional evidence does come up at some place. It's been more than a year. It seems unlikely that that's going to happen. I think, like you said, it's really going to be a matter of whether or not Maxwell Anderson is found guilty or if he is acquitted. But I don't know that there's going to be that satisfaction of knowing truly what occurred. As you pointed out, the big question is, where was she killed? How was she killed? Why was she killed? And who and where cut up her body? Where did that occur? With what tools?
Yeah, that's an important part. I want to bring that up, Brian, because it's not just, okay, we don't have the murder weapon, and I hate to talk about this, but this was a grisly crime. They never found tools that would be required to do what happened to Sade Robinson. And you can hear this was a very tough morning in court as they were talking about the remains that they found and in what condition they were found in. They were talking, we're talking about clean cuts, some not clean cuts. Those tools were never found. That's not something you can do with your bare hands. So that evidence is somewhere out there with whoever is responsible, with it, whatever side you look at this. That was never found. So this investigation, Brian, it's still ongoing because, as you said, there are a lot of things missing from what happened on that day in April.
Yeah, hitting the wrong button. Yeah, absolutely, Ben. I think in the end, the state is going to do the best job they can to connect all the dots to the point that the jury could not have any other explanation. Their goal is to get the jury to think no reasonable person could imagine anyone else having done this but Maxwell Anderson. But whether or not we will ever find out exactly what he or someone else did is right now looking like it is less and less likely. But, you know, we haven't seen all the evidence yet. We just know what we did hear in opening statements and what we have not heard from those opening statements, and what we therefore don't expect to hear during the course of this trial. We know the prosecutors have already said there's no bloody crime scene, but as you said, you're going to have to use your common sense, meaning you're going to have to put two and two together. But that means we don't have direct evidence. We don't have the smoking gun. So it is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. We are at 1:41 p.m., already 10 minutes past when the court said they were going to return this afternoon. We're keeping an eye on that. But meanwhile, obviously the supporters out there, Ben, they are active, and they don't seem like they have any plans to go anytime soon.
Yeah, no, and you can see, and I'll have Eddie Potter, who's been doing a great job this afternoon. They've got a tent. So they're here to stay. They're ready for the conditions. And as you said, this is one of the biggest show of supports. I mean, we've seen signs. We've seen people showing up again to the mural on the east side. But this is a really active day where people are showing up. And some of these people did not know Sade Robinson. They have just been struck by this case. So they've come out here to show support for her family. We've talked about this a little bit, Brian. Really tough day for her family. And they've been there throughout the entire trial. And there were at times, especially when some really tough images were shown, images honestly that I did not even want to look at, so I have not seen the images. But Sade Robinson's mom had to be helped out of the courtroom. She stood up. Now, our reporters have said, you can imagine what she's been through. The mother of Sade Robinson, she's had a little bit of trouble walking. So that was from the start of the trial when she appeared. She's getting help from, there's a group from the county that's helping her, kind of a victims advocate group, helped her get her up, move her out of the courtroom. But yeah, just showing you this is a real person, and including on Maxwell Anderson's side, his family is there supporting him. This is a real case, real people, really tough details. One of the most grisly crimes that we've covered here in Milwaukee, just with the details of what happened, and it's emotional and it's affecting people that they're coming out and they want to show support for the family that they obviously has been through hell and continues every single day. Interesting, talking among the media pool, some of the other reporters covering this, sometimes you get a clear indication of what the timeline is. You know, okay, we got 2 more days left, we've got this many witnesses left. And Brian, you can correct me on the reporting here, but I mean, we're talking, there's a witness list of hundreds of people. I think it's 250 witnesses.
Yeah, that's right.
They could call from that list. We don't know which witnesses are going to be called and which witnesses are not. They're not going to call 250 people because some people are going to say the same thing as others. But we don't, and they've been moving through. I mean, there was a parade of Milwaukee police detectives this morning that we heard. Sometimes they move through them pretty quick, but we don't know how much longer this trial is going to go. We don't know if it's going to last all of next week or even longer or shorter. I can't imagine the defense list is very long. We do know there's the individual who was in the house who said he was the light sleeper and didn't hear anything, and you know the defense is going to call him because that was a big part of their opening statements. But besides that, you could tell their defense is they're poking holes into the state's prosecution, and they don't have, it doesn't appear, a witness to come forward and say, oh yeah, I saw Maxwell Anderson at the bar. That wasn't him. It couldn't have been him. I don't think we're going to get any of those kind of witnesses. So their list is much shorter. But again, talking to the media pool, what's interesting about this case, so high profile, but we don't know the timeline of how much longer this could last.
Well, I would imagine we've got at least a few days left, 2 or 3 days left of state witnesses. You're going to have some of those defense witnesses. Like you said, it won't be as long of a list. And then, of course, you're going to have jury deliberation, or jury instructions, then jury deliberation. So I think we're expecting this to take all of next week. And there's the possibility it could even spill over into the following week. We won't know, of course. We're speculating. We don't have a clue, Ben, but we have an idea that there's a lot more that's yet to come. I want to update real quick. We do know that some of the parties have returned to the courtroom, but I don't believe we've yet seen Maxwell Anderson, and the jury is not back in the courtroom. So they're kind of running a little bit more on the time schedule they have the last couple of days, in spite of the fact that the judge said they were going to come back a little earlier today. So we're still hanging out here. Ben, I'm curious for you, oftentimes now, because you are Fox 6 main anchor, Ben Handelman, you're often covering these things, everything from the desk back here at the station. You're out in the field here today. It must give a different perspective to be out there among the elements, to hear the family, to hear the honking horns and that sort of thing. Oh, actually,
it just makes it more real.
I'm going to cut that off. I guess they are back in the courtroom. Ben, thanks for your time today. We're going to get you back out to the, let's see if we can get you back out to the trial now as I get us set up. They are back underway. Well, they were for a moment. Are we back? It looks like they are coming back now. Let's see if we can get you back out to the trial. Well, Anderson is coming in, or the jury's coming in? Jury's still out? All right. So you can see that's why we call this the Wisconsin Live Desk, right? Things are happening as we go. It looked like we had somebody on the stand, or somebody at least one of the attorneys was speaking. I think that was the lead prosecutor, and then we went right back to the shot of the eagle on top of the American flag. So we'll just hold here until we know that the jury is back in, and we can take you back out to, I'm seeing a message now from Bill Misson in the courtroom. The jury is coming into the courtroom. So momentarily, it'll be the afternoon session of day 4, the trial of Maxwell Anderson in the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson of Milwaukee. This morning, 6 Milwaukee police homicide detectives. This afternoon, well, that remains to be seen. We're going to find out here very shortly. We appreciate you watching here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to keep it here with live testimony throughout the afternoon up until Fox 6 News at 4 o'clock. During any breaks, I'll come back, give you a recap of what we've heard in the most recent period of testimony. And now that I hear the judge, I believe she's calling the case back to the record, so we're going to send you out now to the trial.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a lovely lunch. We still have Detective Thaddeus Schimmels on the stand. We are still on direct examination. I have a new court reporter, so we're going to re-swear him at this point.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can please be seated, restate, and respell your name for the record.
My name is Thaddeus Schimmels, Thaddeus, last name Schimmels, Schimmmels.
Welcome back, Detective. When we left off this morning, we had finished with a video from the 3200 block of West Valete, as well as a video from the 3300 block north of McKinley. Is that right?
West McKinley, yes, sir.
It was McKinley, okay. And lastly, I got one more video to play with you. Did you obtain video from a gas station at 3308 West Valete Street that depicted Miss Robinson's Honda Civic?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury where that gas station is on the map?
Certainly.
For the record, I have Exhibit 225 up on the screen.
West Valete Street is here, and 33rd Street would be just kind of going through the JJ Fish and Chicken, the eye of the fish. It would be located on the northwest corner of 33rd and Valete.
The footage we're about to watch, we see some of these same movements in one of the previous vehicles. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Which video?
The video from to the east of the location from the 3220 West Valete Street, the care center.
I have coming up on the screen here Exhibit 203. Is this the gas station video you recovered from 3308 West Valete Street?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. This is 201. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong case. Okay. I'd move 201 in.
Any objection?
No.
201's received.
The video is date and time stamped, correct?
It is.
What is the date and time stamp?
The date and time stamp currently on the monitor is the year 2024, 0402, which would be April 2nd. The time is 3:57 and 08 seconds.
What can you tell us about the accuracy of that timestamp?
The timestamp is 1 hour and 1 minute slow from the actual time.
So what would be the real time where we have it here?
It would be at 4:58 a.m.
And what are we going to see?
What we're going to see in this video is the camera view. It's showing the front of the gas station, the pumps, and right behind that you can see going from the upper left to the right side of the screen would be West Valete, and then North 33rd Street would be going from the left side of the screen to the upper right.
Okay. Is the car going to drive by like we saw on the other camera?
That's correct. It'll be traveling westbound, going from left to right on Valete Street in a moment.
Playing at that time. Is that the car?
Yes, it is.
Paused at 4:50. It would be 3:57:17 on the screen. So that would be at 4:58 a.m.
Correct.
I'm going to advance the video to 4:13. Let me go back. Cue it up to 4:13:06. Playing from there. You see the Honda?
Yes, I do.
And it's doing what? I paused it at 4:13:40.
At this time, it was traveling eastbound on West Valete Street and making a right-hand turn to travel southbound on North 33rd Street.
The real time of this would be what?
This would be 5:14 a.m.
Advancing the video to 4:15:31, but really that would be roughly 5:16, right?
Correct.
Playing from there. Is that the Honda again coming west?
Yes.
And lastly, picking up at 4:18:46 on the video screen, this would be 5:19, right?
Correct.
Playing from there. And what does it do?
The Miss Robinson's Honda was again traveling westbound on West Valete and now made a left-hand turn to travel southbound on North 33rd Street.
Paused it at 4:19:06, which would be 5:20 a.m. Detective, is that the last time Miss Robinson's Honda is on video up until 6:50 a.m.?
From my knowledge, yes.
I have nothing else.
Cross?
No.
Thank you, Detective. State your next witness.
Detective Rachel Smith.
solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
It's Rachel. Rachel, R-A-C-H-E-L, Smith, S-M-I-T-H.
You a detective with the Milwaukee Police Department's homicide unit?
I am.
How long have you worked for the Milwaukee Police Department?
I've been with the department for just over 8 years.
Did you assist in the investigation of the disappearance of Sade Robinson in early April of 2024?
I did, yes.
Was part of your assistance trying to recover video from various locations?
Yes.
Did you go, or excuse me, did you help with looking around the area of where Miss Robinson's car was burned for video of any kind?
No, I did not go in that area specifically. The video that I recovered from that area was received via email.
And what was that video from?
It was from a fellow police officer's house. She lives at the at the address of 3123/3125 West Walnut.
Can you tell us, for the record, that officer's name?
Yes, it is Police Officer Shalonda, S-H-E-L-O-N-D-I-A, Tarver, T-A-R-V-E-R.
Can you point out on the map I have on the screen, which is Exhibit 190, where the house would be?
Sure.
It's
going to be right in this area right here. It's going to be, I believe, this house.
Okay, and for the record, the witness is pointing to a house about 2 houses in from North 32nd Street at Walnut. Were you aware that through your department's investigation, the sheriff's office investigation, that there had been video of a subject walking away from the area where her car was burned?
Yes.
Is that why this location on Walnut was of interest to you?
Yes.
What were you aware of that made that of interest specifically?
Sure. I was aware that the person left the area where the vehicle was burned on Lisbon and traveled in that direction on foot.
Consistent with where this Sharpie line is kind of drawn there?
That is correct.
All right, so that individual, and I'm going to put up Exhibits 447 here, which has already been admitted, as well as 448. Are you familiar with these images?
I am, yes.
What do they show?
Sure, they depict a subject walking. They're wearing all dark clothing with a tan backpack and shoes that have like a white pattern on the bottom.
Did you get video, and that subject would be walking in this area here, right?
Yes,
Okay, and he's heading west?
that is correct.
Do you pick up on the video from Officer Tarver's house that subject continuing to head west?
Yes,
So, are any stops made, or that subject just continues walking west?
just continues walking west.
Okay. I've got Exhibit 197 in my computer here. Can you tell us about what these clips are in terms of the video quality and how you received them?
Sure. So unfortunately, Officer Tarver was having difficulty downloading the clips directly from the system. So what she did to not lose the video, she took a screen recording with her cell phone. She recorded it and then sent that to me via email.
So they're pretty grainy?
That is correct.
Okay. I've got Exhibit 197 on the screen. It's very small. I'm going to zoom in a moment, but just try to help us get oriented here. There's 3 clips, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Summarize this for us.
Sure. This is from Channel 4, which is a camera that's on the exterior of the residence, and it is facing in a northeast direction, and it's capturing Walnut. And then in the distance, you can see North 31st Street.
How much is the date and time stamp off?
The date and timestamp is approximately 1 hour and 5 minutes slow.
So on the screen now, it says April 2nd, 2024, 6:26:11 a.m. What's the real time?
The real time would be 7:31 a.m.
I'm going to use the zoom feature to not get the other parts of the screen recording and just the video here. And then I will play it. I'm going to play it one time in normal speed and then one time in sped up. Playing it at 2:07. The clip is 3 minutes 57 seconds long. And just before I get going, since I advanced it, we're up, the timestamp here now reads 6:28:20 a.m., so that would be what?
7:33 approximately.
Playing at 2:08. And if you could, detective, stand up and just tell us where he's going to be coming, where the person is going to be coming from.
Sure. So they're going to be coming from in the distance here, and then you're going to see them travel on this, the north sidewalk in a west direction.
Thank you. You see him?
Yes.
And then he's off the screen by 3:53?
That is correct.
Okay, just one more time and fast forward. See him walking there?
Yes.
The next clip is going to be from what angle then?
It's going to be from channel 3, which is going to be essentially a directly north angle, and it's going to be capturing just West Walnut Street.
Judge, I don't know if I moved this in, but I would now.
Any objection?
No.
Tell me the number one more time.
197.
And this is actually channel 2.
Okay. I'll go to the one that you had mentioned. So this is just looking direct in front of the house then?
That is correct.
Okay. Playing this one from 50 seconds. Are you able to tell anything about the description of this person based on this video?
Sure. As you can see that their person is wearing dark clothing, and then you can start to tell that the backpack itself is a different shade of color. It's not as dark as the clothing.
last clip. Gonna play it from 1 minute, 15 seconds. Where are we looking here?
So this is channel 2, and this one is going to be pointing in a northwest direction, and this is capturing West Walnut Street and North 32nd Street.
Does it appear the subject go anywhere when he gets to the intersection with 37th Street or 32nd Street?
Sure. It appears initially that the subject begins traveling north, but then you do, just at the very top of the screen, see that the feet continue across North 32nd Street.
Playing at 1:15. I paused it at 1:25. Are you kind of able to tell the color of the backpack here?
Yes, in this view, you're able to see that the backpack is tan in color.
Can you get up and point that out, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to back it up and then let it play. And now he's at the corner?
Correct.
Okay. And are you able to see the feet there?
That is correct.
All right. I'm going to play that clip again because I would like you to stand up and point that out since it's very faint to see.
Sure.
Backing it up. Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there. We'll wait till it gets back. All right, I paused it. And just before I continue playing it, what's the timestamp in real time?
So the timestamp in real time is going to be approximately 7:35.
Okay. Now, if you could, Detective, point out what you're talking about with him crossing the street, and if you can pull that mic to you, that would be helpful. Not that one. Actually, there's one right here. Okay, I'm going to play it at this point.
Okay. And so here you see the person walking, and then they appear to travel in a north direction. Then you're going to see a car travel through the intersection. And then as that car is traveling, you pick up the person walking again and crossing the street, and then they go out of camera view.
Thank you, Detective. That street they're crossing is what street?
That's North 32nd.
So they're crossing North 32nd Street, which direction?
West.
Would that be towards North 35th Street?
That is correct, yes.
Nothing else?
Cross?
So this person is somewhat near the 31st and Galena playground, right?
At the beginning, correct, yes.
And the person is just walking leisurely,
Correct,
not running,
correct.
not looking over their shoulder and glancing around and making suspicious movements.
That is correct.
Just appears to be on a stroll.
That is correct.
That's all.
State?
Nothing else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Detective. State, your next witness?
The state's next witness is Detective Scott Schmitz.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Schmitz, S-C-H-M-I-T-Z.
Are you a detective with the Milwaukee Police Department's homicide unit?
I am.
How long have you been with the department?
With the police department over 24 years.
Okay. Did you assist in attempting to recover video near the area of where Sade Robinson's car was burned on April 2nd, 2024?
Yes, specifically the area of 35th and Lisbon.
Why the area of 35th and Lisbon?
Because we had received information that Maxwell Anderson had boarded a bus in the area.
You are aware that other videos were recovered in the area showing a subject walking around that area
Yes,
from where Miss Robinson's car was burned.
yes.
And I'm going to put up again Exhibit 448. This is an image you've seen before.
Yes.
Were you kind of tasked with trying to find video to see if you could pick up this individual walking anywhere else?
Yes, we were.
And based on that clothing description, were you able to find video depicting that person?
Yes, we found video from a corner store on the corner of 35th and Lisbon called the Key Spot.
Exhibit 225 is on the screen right now. All right. So, were you familiar with the location where Miss Robinson's car was burned? You know where that was?
I believe it was a little bit south of 35th and Galena. I don't know the exact location though.
And, all right, so right here we're looking at, this is Lisbon in the middle, right?
Yes.
Okay. The video you recovered is found where?
Would you like me to stand up and show you?
Yes, and I have a microphone for you.
So the corner store where we found video, this is Lisbon, and this is 35th Street. So it would have been on this corner, so the northeast corner of 35th and Lisbon.
Can you point to the corner of 30th and Lisbon?
30th and Lisbon.
Okay. So 5 blocks away from the corner of 30th and Lisbon is where you got this video from.
That's correct.
All right, you can have a seat, Detective. Thank you. The video you recovered, did it depict what appeared to be the same person as in those screenshots I showed you?
Yes.
There were multiple clips?
Yes, we retrieved a total of 4.
Okay. Who'd you retrieve that video from?
The owner of the corner store, his name was Dominic Key. He wasn't present, but he forwarded us the clips from his phone.
I'm going to bring up the first clip. Sorry. This is Exhibit 198. Let me get off the Zoom. Do you recognize this?
Yes, this is one of the clips that shows 35th and Lisbon going northwest.
This is a video from Key Spot.
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 198 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
It's received.
The traffic light that's up here on the right side, what is that?
That would be the intersection of 35th and Brown, I believe.
And this stoplight that's in the lower left foreground of the video, this is the intersection of 35th and Lisbon stoplight, right?
Yes.
What, in sum, Detective, what are we looking for on this clip?
On the very top, where you see the red brick building, that's a school. And you're going to be seeing near that school walking towards us a male on the left side of the screen, walking south.
Chief Kurzan, is this a CD or is this a flash drive?
This is a CD.
Thank you.
Playing this clip, it's 26 seconds long. If you could, detective, stand up and point out what you're seeing.
So there's a subject walking right here, walking towards the other side.
All right. Next clip. That first clip was titled Key Spot, Channel 4, and it ends in 250. And the next clip is titled Key Spot, Channel 4, and it ends in 621. Paused it at 20 seconds. Do you see that same subject?
Yes,
Did this clip just pick up where the last one left off?
it did.
Okay. And the date and timestamp, is that accurate?
On these two, they are. In the other two, they're off by like an hour and 2 minutes.
Okay, but this one's accurate. So this one is 8:07 a.m.?
Yes.
The next clip I'm going to play is titled, it starts with RP replay, and it ends in the numbers 497. Before I play that, this is a different camera altogether, right?
It is, and this view is going to be, I believe, an hour and 2 minutes behind. So on this, it'll say 7:05.
And what's then the real time?
8:06.
And so this picks up where the last camera left off?
Yes,
And do you see that same subject on this clip from the beginning here?
he's right here.
You're pointing to the upper right side of the screen?
Yes, I'm sorry, right.
Okay.
In the upper right-hand corner.
I'm going to play this clip. It's 54 seconds long. Paused at 6 seconds. I'm going to zoom in. If I can. All right. Are you able to describe what you see that subject wearing?
He's wearing all black and has like a tan-colored backpack.
See right here where I'm circling with my mouse?
Yes.
And what does he do? What are we going to see next?
In the next clip, you're going to see him standing at the bus stop until the bus comes.
Last clip. It's titled RP Replay, ends in the numbers 9424. That Adrian Wojnarowski notification was on the video that was sent to you, right?
Yes, it's from whatever the owner's cell phone.
The zooming in that's happening, that was also from the owner's phone, correct?
Yes.
What just happened?
He made a move towards getting on the bus.
A Milwaukee County Transit bus?
Yes.
Nothing else?
Cross?
Okay, so the video footage we were watching was from the key spot, right?
That's correct.
The neighborhood store on 35th Street in Lisbon.
Yes.
And you spoke with somebody named Dominic Key, who just cooperated fully with law enforcement, just turned over videos, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the videos that we watched show a person walking to a bus stop.
Correct.
That's all.
State?
Nothing else?
Thank you. State your next witness.
Detective Michael Brownrider, the state will recall.
Detective Brownrider, we have a new court reporter, so we're going to re-swear you.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, restate and respell your name for the record.
First name Michael, Michael. Last name Brownrider, B as in boy, Raunreiter.
Detective, you previously testified about some videos in the area of 30th and Lisbon up to 30th and North Avenue, right?
Yes.
And you also collected a video from the area of North 27th Street.
Correct.
Okay, why don't you tell us about the video you collected, why you went there, and what you found?
So I collected video from a Milwaukee Police Department pole camera, which is located at the intersection of 27th and Wells. We were trying to backtrack Miss Robinson's vehicle as to how it got into the area. So based off of MCSO's records, we knew that it had come from the area of Howard and 794, and then getting on a off-ramp would be either 27th Street, 35th Street, 16th Street, the viaducts there. So 27th and Wells is our nearest pole camera that I could obtain.
All right. What time what time frame were you looking for and why?
I was looking for any time after 4:40 in the morning.
Specifically, why 4:40?
That was the MCSO, so the Milwaukee County Sheriff's, had the last location of Miss Robinson's vehicle in the area of Howard and 794 at 4:40 in the morning.
What is a pole cam? What is a City of Milwaukee pole cam?
It's a fixed camera, generally on the side of a building or on a pole.
And why does the city have these?
Monitors traffic. Some will be affixed with license plate readers, so they'll capture pictures of license plates as they go through intersections. Some are just in high crime areas where they monitor areas of high crime.
And do you use them sometimes in some of your homicide investigations?
I would say almost every single one.
Are they typically put in busier intersections?
Yes.
Main thoroughfares?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury, I have exhibit 225 up on the screen here, where this pole camera was?
Yes. Can I step down?
Please, we actually...
There's a microphone. Oh, sorry, Judge.
I was just going to say the same thing. Take that microphone and just turn it on, please.
Okay. 27th and Wells is this, it's actually marked here with Daddy's Soul Food and Grill. Specifically, the pole camera was on the southwest corner of 27th and Wells. So right here where I'm pointing.
So you were basically trying to check any possible route you could check for how the car would have gotten from, what was the area you said originally?
MCSO last had her vehicle or her phone records in the area of Howard and 794.
Near St. Francis?
Yes.
And so you're trying to find a route that would take from St. Francis to the area where her car was burned. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
What freeway exit would one maybe use?
The one that we had spoke of before, which exits at like 25 in Clybourne, 26 in Clybourne. You would come up. Closest would be Wisconsin Avenue, then you would take a left turn, and then the first major thoroughfare north and south is 27th Street. The blue right here that turns gray.
26th Street and 25th Street are not busy streets?
No.
Okay. Did you in fact find video showing that?
Yes, I did.
And I'm going to pull up Exhibit 196 here. You can have a seat with the microphone. Thank you. All right, I'm going to bring up first the video file that is labeled as camera 1. What are we looking at, Detective?
So this is 27th and Wells. It's facing southbound. So in the top right corner of your screen here is actually going to be the intersection of 27th and Wisconsin. And then across the street, so on the other side of the screen is that Daddy Soul Foods that I had spoke of. And on the left corner of the screen is pretty much the intersection of 27th and Wells.
I'm going to bring this video. I'm going to move 196 in, first of all.
Any objection?
No.
It's received.
I'm going to advance this clip to 4 minutes, 40 seconds, which would correspond to what time, Detective? There's no stamp on the video, but what time are we looking at here?
The video should have started at about 4:45 in the morning. If you look at the label or the name of the file, it says 4:44 and 59 seconds. So it would be roughly 4:50 in the morning.
Have you yourself driven the route from KK and Howard to this intersection?
Yes, I have.
Taking the interstate and the highway?
Yes, I did.
Taking the 25th and Clybourne exit?
Yes.
And approximately how long did it take you?
10 minutes.
I'm going to play clip 1 from 4 minutes, 40 seconds, which would be 4:40 a.m. I'm sorry. Yeah. What do we see?
That would be Miss Robinson's vehicle.
I paused it at 5:05. Did I misspeak on the time?
You did. The video started at 4:50 in the morning there, sir. So the vehicle had turned off of Wisconsin Avenue and then turned northbound on 35th Street.
All right. And if I'm zooming in on the vehicle here, what can you tell about the vehicle? What do you see?
The windows are foggy, and it appears that there's some sort of blanket or covering over the rear driver's side window there.
Playing at 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Are the wipers going?
Yes.
I paused it at 5 minutes, 26 seconds, and the car just drove off screen, correct?
Correct. Continued northbound on 27th Street there.
So what time would that have been when it drove off?
It should be about 4:51, 4:50 in a couple of seconds there.
Between 4:50 and 4:51 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next clip. This is labeled camera 2. I'm going to advance it to 5 minutes. All right, so I have it up to the 5 minute mark. So based on that, what time would this video be, when I press play, what time are we going to be playing from in real time?
It should be 4:50.
Playing at 5 minutes. I paused it. The TV has gone out. All right, it's back. It's paused at 5:06. I'm going to zoom in. On this angle, detective, did you try to ascertain any information about who the driver of the vehicle might be?
I did.
What did you see?
You can see that the driver is wearing dark clothing. Appears to be a lighter skin tone, most likely a white male or female.
All right, and if you could step down with that microphone, I'm going to have you point out exactly what you see as it plays. So the car, we know from the last clip, stops at this intersection for a period of time, correct?
Correct.
Playing at 5:06.
So while it plays, you're going to see the left hand of the individual driving that's going to move around inside of the vehicle. You're going to also see a shadow of the face. Again, you're not able to make out an identity, but you're able to see that it's a lighter skinned individual.
And that TV went out, so I'm going to back it up and do it again. Playing at 5:06.
You can see the face there as it moved, and then the left hand in the corner of the window there.
Okay. Backing up to 5:09 and playing again. That was paused at 5:19.
As well as, I don't think I mentioned before, but you can see here that this doesn't appear to be the fog or the moisture on the windshield. You can see how that color is, whereas the difference in the rear driver's side window here looks to be like some sort of blanket or some sort of covering the window.
So your testimony is that the windshield appears to be what?
Foggy, like there's dew. If I'm not mistaken, it was raining that day. Okay. So it looks like there was fog covering the windshield. You can see that this blanket actually comes into the driver's side window, which makes me believe that it's some sort of covering past the B pillar here into the driver's compartment.
All right. Okay, I got the TV back, so I'm going to play it at 5:08. And if you can point out what you notice about the driver when you see it.
So it's going to be right there. When you pause it, it's a little bit blurry, but it appears that the driver kind of tilts his head or their head to the left, which you can see a skin tone there that appears to be a lighter skin tone. And then that was the hand that had just moved as well.
Off the camera. All right. I'm going to do it one more time. Pulling northbound on 27th?
Correct.
Last clip. This is labeled camera 3. bring this up from 20 minutes, 20 seconds. This one's timed a little differently, Detective, correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us how, as I
This clip
bring this
starts
up?
at 4:29 and 59 seconds. So 4:29 a.m.
And then, so if we advance it 20 minutes from there, that's roughly
4:50 in the morning.
okay. Traveling northbound from this intersection, would that get you to Vliet Street?
Yes, it would.
All right, Detective, I have Exhibit 225 that's going to be on the Elmo. Throughout your involvement in this investigation, did you familiarize yourself with the exact locations and directions and times where, specifically times, where the Honda Civic is seen driving and where that subject, Exhibit 448 is on the screen, is seen walking?
Yes.
I have Exhibit 225 here. And if you could, I would like you to draw on this exhibit with this pen and take the jury through the summary of what those videos show. May the witness step down?
Please.
Why don't you use this red pen here? I'm going to put the microphone in front of you. Make sure that it's on the TV.
Oh, sorry. So as I had just testified, the vehicle is northbound at 4:50 in the morning on 27th from Wells Street here. Then it is captured on video. It would be westbound on Vliet Street here. And then it circles around, and the first time it's captured right here off of 34th and McKinley in a back alleyway off of a Ring camera. The vehicle then appears to kind of circle in this area off of Vliet Street between 35th and it would be about 28th. The vehicle then is last seen at 5:19 a.m. It is coming northbound, and then it makes a westbound turn on Vliet. And after that, from 5:20 to when I testified earlier today, we do not have the vehicle on camera. We then capture it, as I testified earlier, northbound on 30th Street from Walnut passing Lisbon Avenue.
I'm going to stop you there. So, let me just move the map for you. 5:19 is when you last catch the vehicle passing 32nd and Vliet here. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And then about 5:20, it disappears from camera until when?
Until it should be 6:50 in the morning.
Okay. And where does it pick back up on camera at 6:50 in the morning?
Traveling northbound on 30th Street, approaching Lisbon Avenue.
And how close is that location to where the body parts were found?
A block and a half.
Okay, so it reappears on camera a block to a block and a half from where the body parts were found.
Yes, if you'd like me to mark where the park is on the camera. So the park is right here. This is 30th Street northbound, where I had testified that we capture it traveling northbound, and then it circles in this neighborhood here off of Brown Street and 30th.
Do you have a Sharpie to write it on darker? It's really hard to see.
Sure, I'll give him a marker.
We have one right here behind you, Detective Brownrider.
Northbound on 27?
Correct.
Then?
Westbound on Valete. It's captured in this alleyway here off of a ring camera at 459. It's then circling, or appears to be circling, the area off of Valete Street here. The last time that we capture it on video is 519. It's westbound on Valete towards 35th Street, where it's out of camera until...
Can you write 519 next to that arrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Go on.
Where it's then captured northbound on 30th from Lisbon to North Avenue here. As I circled here, this is the park where the human remains were located.
What time does it reappear?
6:50 a.m.
Can you write that?
And then draw a line off that circle and write park.
Then what?
It's captured traveling kind of in a circle around here off of 30th and Brown. And then it pulls into the alleyway, the location of the fire. I will put an arrow here. That's at about 7:23 a.m., where then we see shortly after MFD approaching.
Okay, around a little after 7:30.
Correct.
Then, I don't know if we have a different color. You want to use blue?
Use the highlighter here, sir.
Use the highlighter. Let's talk about the subject walking after the fire at 7:30. Why don't you, can you draw on the map where that subject is traveling to?
Yes, that subject is seen traveling southbound on 30th from Lisbon. That pops up, okay. And then that subject then travels westbound on Walnut Street and then northbound on 32nd Street, or appears to turn northbound on 32nd Street, where we then do not have any other video. That subject then is picked up again, coming southbound on 35th Street from Brown and coming to the intersection of 35th and Lisbon Avenue.
Can you circle the 35th and Lisbon Avenue intersection in pink, please? And what time is that subject walking southbound from Brown towards the intersection of 35th and Lisbon?
If I'm not mistaken, it's approximately 8:06 a.m.
And is that the time that the person gets on a bus?
I believe that individual gets on a bus at around 8:11.
He waits at that stop and then gets on the bus?
Correct.
Okay. You can have a seat, thank you. So to be clear, Detective, after disappearing from camera at about 5:19 a.m., the car is off camera until 6:50 a.m.
Correct.
At which point it is picked up just next to the 31st and Galena playground by the video you recovered.
Yes, it's traveling northbound on 30th from Walnut, which is within a block of the park.
Is it coming from the direction of the park?
Yes.
And one last topic, Detective. The area of that playground was canvassed for video, is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Were there any videos able to be recovered that depicted any part of that playground?
No.
Nothing else?
Cross.
Yes. Good afternoon, Detective. I want to talk about the video that the state had played of the Honda Civic, and then you described that the person inside the car, you said, is lighter skin tone, correct?
Correct.
And you got to admit that the conditions at this time it's pretty rainy at that point, right?
Correct, it is.
I mean, if you could see in the video that it looks like some of the lights that are reflecting from like the street lights are kind of bouncing off the car, right?
Yes,
And that window of the Honda is rolled closed, correct?
it appears to be closed, yes.
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, but best guess is that it's probably rolled closed, correct?
Yes, it appears to be closed.
And in that video, are you able to determine the hair color of the individual driving?
No,
Are you able to determine the hair length?
no,
Whether the individual is wearing a hat
no,
or a beanie or some sort of, something on their head?
no.
Are you able to determine, you said that it appears that he's wearing dark clothing, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what color? Black, gray, brown?
I would say dark clothing. By looking at the video, I believe it's black.
Okay. And are you able to tell if it's a shirt, a jacket, sweater?
No, you cannot. You can just tell that really all that was visible, like I had testified earlier, was the hand. So based off of that, I would surmise that it would be a long sleeve of some sort. But no, you cannot.
Well, I mean, it could. Can you tell if the individual is wearing gloves? Because that could explain why it's lighter.
No, you cannot see if they're a light colored glove.
Okay, and you weren't able to determine the height of the individual driving that car, correct?
The height of the driver?
Yeah.
No.
Or the weight?
No.
And did you observe any distinct tattoos?
No, I did not.
And when do you recall when you reviewed this video, or when you had obtained it and actually reviewed it for yourself?
I believe my report says April 10th.
Okay. And had Mr. Anderson been arrested before that time?
I can't recall.
Are you aware whether you knew what Mr. Anderson looked like before you had reviewed that video?
Yes, I was.
Okay, nothing further.
State?
Nothing else.
Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
State your next witness.
Detective Ryan Bergman.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
Ryan, R-Y-A-N, Bergman, B-E-R-G-E-M-A-N-N.
Are you a detective with the Milwaukee Police Department's homicide unit?
Yes,
How long have you worked for the department?
since April of 2003.
Through your work as a detective, do you oftentimes find it useful to recover video from Milwaukee County Transit System buses?
Yes,
In fact, so much that they've actually given your department access to their camera system. Is that a fair statement?
correct. I believe there's 6 of us that have access to that.
And were you a participant in the investigation into the disappearance of Sade Robinson in the form of trying to see if any Milwaukee County Transit bus video could assist?
Yes,
Did you recover videos from the Milwaukee County Transit System?
I did.
Did they show anything of note?
They did.
There were 2 buses in particular that you recovered video from, is that right?
Correct.
Can you tell the jury what 2 bus routes those were?
Sure. The first bus video that I would have recovered was from bus Route 57, and that would have been the bus that traveled at the time westbound on West Lisbon Avenue. And then the second bus that I would have recovered would have been the 35 route bus, and that would have been the bus that traveled southbound on North 35th Street.
I have exhibit 225 on the screen here. The bus that travels down Lisbon, that's what you were talking about?
Correct. It's actually they call it the Walnut/Appleton route bus, but it travels down Lisbon.
Because Lisbon turns into Walnut somewhere around 24th, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to bring up Exhibit 203 on the screen. Can you see that, Detective?
Yes.
What are we looking at?
So this is, there's 4 cameras that I captured off of this bus. This is the bus that was traveling westbound on West Lisbon Avenue. It is currently at the intersection of Lisbon and North 27th Street, going westbound.
Going westbound,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
And really small at the bottom here is what?
So that would be the date, time and date stamp. It says 4/2 of 2024, and it's marked at 7:29 and 24 seconds, so 7 in the morning, 7:29 in the morning.
You're aware that her vehicle was set on fire somewhere around 7:30 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Why don't you summarize what exactly we're going to see here?
Sure. The bus is going to continue going westbound along West Lisbon Avenue here. And as we approach 29th Street, North 29th Street, you'll see a blue building. And then along the north side sidewalk, you'll see 2 females walking westbound. And then as it keeps on going westbound, you'll see an individual coming out of the yards between, it would be the 2900 block of West Lisbon. And then you will see a vehicle, Ms. Robinson's vehicle, in the background, and you will see a flame that starts in the passenger compartment of that vehicle.
And what you just summarized is captured on not just this camera video angle, but a summary of what the cameras from this bus depict. Okay. I'm going to play this. It is queued up to April 2nd, 2024 at 7:29:24. All right, we're heading west.
Yes, and then the blue building on the right side of the screen is the blue building I referred to. Those will be the 2 females walking along the sidewalk westbound. And then shortly you'll see a male subject approach out of those yards between the white building and the blue building. Right there.
I paused it at 7:30 and 02, and if you look off to the right side of the screen, what can you see here?
That is Miss Robinson's vehicle, and the fire appears to be just starting inside the passenger compartment of that vehicle.
This is the subject here that I'm circling with my mouse that you were referencing walking out?
Yes.
Is there a microphone up by you, a handheld one?
Yes.
Are you able to go by the TV screen and point out what you're seeing as we're playing through this?
Sure. If I can turn this.
Yeah.
I'm going to back it up here to 7:29:55.
So the 2 females are walking westbound along the sidewalk, one with a black and white umbrella, the other one with a blue jacket with the number 23 on it. And then to the right side of the screen is Miss Robinson's vehicle. You can see the fire is starting in the passenger compartment of that vehicle. And then in front of the 2 females, there's a male subject wearing a black hooded sweatshirt and a large camouflage backpack.
At some point in maybe this clip or other clips from the same exact bus, are you able to tell any demographics about that individual with the backpack?
Yes, it would be outside the curb side view of this bus video.
Okay, I'm going to keep playing the video. Pause there. Are you able to tell anything about his shoes there?
Yes, you can tell that it has a white bottom sole, and then there's a darker top part of the shoe, and then also dark pants.
I'm going to move over to the curbside. All right, so I'm on the curbside view now.
Yes.
This is the woman with the umbrella up here.
Correct.
The woman with the LeBron James jacket is behind this tree.
Yes.
Okay, playing from there. 7:30:06. Do you see the subject with the backpack?
Yes, so you can see the backpack a little more clear here. It's going to be a tan camouflage backpack. And then you can also see that the tops of his shoes are also that almost similar tan color.
And as I advance the video, the bus has now passed, what, 30th Street?
Correct.
And what do you see in the upper left?
That would be the Miss Robinson's vehicle becoming more engulfed in flames.
Okay. I'm going to go back again to 7:30. '02. And play from there, frame by frame.
Did you want me narrating it again, or?
Yes, please.
So the LeBron James jacket is continuing to walk westbound. She appears to look to her right, which would be north. And then the male subject comes out of that lot and stands next to the bus. And then as the bus passes, he crosses the street, which would be southbound across Lisbon.
Sorry about that. Go frame by frame forward. This is on the curbside view?
Yes, and you can see the female with the 23 jacket is looking towards the car fire. The subject with the umbrella continues to walk westbound. I believe she stops as she sees the fire also. And that would be the male subject with the tan backpack. Appears he's waiting for the bus to pass him so he can cross the street. And then we see the car engulfed or starting to be engulfed in flames on the left side of the screen.
If I go to the other side of the bus, what can you see?
So on this would be called the street side camera, and we see that same individual now behind the bus, and he's crossing southbound across Lisbon Avenue to the south side of the street. And that would be 30th Street is that intersection right there, North 30th and Lisbon.
Stopped the video at 7:30:23. Let's talk about the 35th Street bus.
Yes.
Where does that bus travel to and from, if you know?
It's all along North 35th Street. The video that I had got, it was just north of 35th and Lisbon, and then on the video I got from 8:11 a.m. all the way to 8:36 a.m. for that date. So it travels all the way to the south side of Milwaukee, south of Oklahoma, probably even to Howard. It just continues on 35th Street.
Is 35th Street one of the main, roads that connects the north side to the south side?
Yes.
There's a viaduct that goes over the Miller Valley?
Yes.
Okay. What are the other ones?
We would have 27th Street would be one. 16th Street travels pretty far, but 27th, 35th, and then you would also have 43rd, which would be Miller Parkway, Sherman Boulevard. Those would probably be your main ones.
Are you aware of what Mr. Anderson's listed residence was?
Yes.
Where was that?
I believe it was the 3100 block of South 39th.
Okay. How far away would that be from where one could get off of the bus that travels on 35th Street?
So the two options to get off on around that address would be on 35th and Oklahoma, and then 35th and Ohio, which is, I believe, the 3300 block.
A logical bus route to take if you were on 35th and Lisbon and you wanted to get to the 3100 block of South 39th Street, what bus would you take?
The 35th Street bus.
Okay. I have the next bus video queued up. This is the 35th Street bus. I have it timed at, I'm going to back it up a little bit here. 8:11:55. Can you orient us a little bit? What are we looking at?
Sure. The bus here would be looking southbound. It's traveling in a southbound direction. We're on North 35th Street, and then we would be approaching, I believe the lights are going to be Lisbon.
You aware of video that was found showing a subject waiting for the bus at 35th and Lisbon?
Yes.
Tell us what you were aware of when you were looking for this.
So this video I had found prior to that. Once we see the subject standing on the corner, then we went and retrieved more video regarding that. But this was the first video that I found on the bus, and then we retrieved more. But it shows the subject walking to the corner here and waiting for the bus.
Not this video, the video that you were aware of.
Correct.
Thank you. Pause the video. Do you see anyone on this frame that looks familiar from the last bus video we saw?
Yes.
Point them out, please.
Sure. He is wearing the black hooded sweatshirt. He has the brown, you can see the brown shoulder straps for a backpack, black pants, the brownish color top of the shoe, white soles, and then it's the same guy that we saw earlier.
Going over to the, what is this camera?
So there's 10 different cameras that I downloaded off this bus. You have 4 exterior cameras. You have the windshield, curbside, street side, and then you have a rear facing camera. And then there's 6 interior cameras on this one. So the one we were looking at just a minute ago was the windshield camera. This would be called the front door camera.
And there's also cameras that face back into the bus where the passengers sit?
Correct. And then on the interior cameras, there is audio.
Okay. Let me make sure I have that on. And what time are we looking at here? Oh, it'll come back. There it is.
It is 8:12 and 15 seconds, so 8:12 in the morning.
Playing from that timestamp. Audio back on, sorry. All right, there we go. We're gonna watch it not extended. No. Appreciate that. Yep. I'm gonna go full screen and play it again.
You running last week. What about you?
All right, detective, the subject did what in those clips?
He enters the bus, he puts $2 into the machine, and he asks the bus driver if the bus is going south. And the bus driver tells him it is.
Okay. He then goes in the back and sits down?
Correct.
And are you able to see clearly the clothing he's wearing now?
Yes.
Have you watched this entire clip from when he sits down until he gets off the bus?
I have.
Does he ever pull a phone out?
He does not.
I'm going to play through I'm going to skip through this, but play various clips starting at 8:13:34.
Route 35.
Paused at 8:13:52. We'll jump ahead. 8:15. Paused at 8:15:18. Just sitting there.
Yes.
Let's go ahead. 8:17. Paused at 8:17:19. Let's go up to 8:20. Paused at 8:21. We'll go ahead. 8:24. Go ahead to 8:27. And all this time, Detective, where's the bus going?
Southbound on 35th Street.
Okay, and you'd be able to see that on the front camera, right?
Correct.
Paused at 8:28:04. Playing at 8:28:52. Paused at 8:29:07. Playing at 8:30:06. Paused at 8:30:21. Playing at 8:31:25. Paused at 8:31:36. Playing at 8:33:11. Paused at 8:33:35. What's happening now?
He is approaching the front door of the bus to get off.
Paused at 8:33:40. You're able to see on the sweatshirt a little emblem on the left sleeve here?
Yes.
Okay.
Charles, Ohio. Alberta College.
You mind if I get off here?
Paused at 8:34:02. What happened there?
He approaches the driver and asks him if he minds if he gets off there. The bus is currently in the middle of the street, so he would not let him get off there. The street directly before this is West Lakefield, and then the next stop that the bus driver is going to stop at, that there is a stop, is going to be on Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Showing you Exhibit 204. What is that?
That is the subject that's on the bus.
That's a screenshot of the bus video we just watched.
It is.
Move 204 in.
Any objection?
No.
It's received.
Pass to publish.
Go right ahead.
That's 204? Oh.
Yes,
Do you see that person in court today?
I do.
You identify him by where he's seated and what he's wearing.
He's seated at the defense counsel's table wearing a blue button-up shirt with the white t-shirt underneath it.
I'd ask the record to reflect that the detective identified Maxwell Anderson.
Any objection?
I'm not going to comment on that.
The record will so reflect.
All right, I've moved it to the video, kind of shows the door where he got on, right?
Yes.
I can off here. No, in the middle of the street.
Let me back that up because the video went out.
No, in the middle of the street.
He asked the bus driver what?
If he could get out there, and the bus driver tells him, no, we're in the middle of the street.
And if we look at the front, where are we?
This would basically be Lakefield, and then as you continue through it, you go to Ohio.
Okay. Is this near the address of 3161 South 39th Street?
Yes, I believe Lakefield is a 3200 block. Is either the 31 or 3200 block. It's Oklahoma, Lakefield, and then I think Rustic in Ohio, some type of order.
Is Euclid in there?
Euclid is also, sorry.
Okay. Paused it.
Next block.
He's exited the bus?
Yes.
And then what direction does he walk?
He starts walking northbound back towards West Lakefield.
Okay. Which camera would that be on?
That one, the curbside, sorry.
Okay.
And then, can I stand up and just point where Lakefield is?
Yes.
So this is along South 35th Street, and then this intersection here is West Lakefield.
If you were to go to 3161 South 39th Street, what would be the best route to walk to off of this bus?
The quickest way would be either Ohio or up West Lakefield.
Okay. I'm going to play from 8:34:54. I have it on the curbside camera. This one doesn't have audio, right?
Correct. So the subject continues to walk northbound along 35th Street, and then he goes out of range.
I'm going to bring up a map that's already been introduced and admitted as Exhibit 443. And if I didn't already, I'd move the entirety of 203, and I know I moved the first one in.
Any objection?
No.
203 is received.
I've got a map of Milwaukee County up here, Detective. Can you see that?
Yes.
Or do you want to stand up?
I can see it.
Where the subject boarded the bus, who you've identified as the defendant, was where?
It'd be 35th and Lisbon, so it would be on the west, or the northwest corner of 35th and Lisbon at that intersection.
Can you use the microphone?
Sure. So it's an intersection of 35th and Lisbon along the northwest corner is where he would have boarded that bus that was going southbound.
And what direction is that on this map? If you could point it out here as I move the map.
It would be going down.
All right. Passing Interstate 94 there.
Yes.
Passing National Avenue here.
Yes.
Greenfield Avenue.
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
35th and Greenfield.
Yes.
35th and Forest Home here.
Yes.
Jackson Park's right next to that, right?
Correct.
Continuing south, 35th and Oklahoma.
Yes.
Where's Lakefield?
It would be this street that goes like this.
All right. So if one wanted to get to 3161 South 39th Street, where would you go?
So this street, Lakefield, goes westbound, and then that 38th Street and 39th, it's an alley. So that would get you to the back of your house, basically through the alley.
And you could also walk down 38th to Euclid and come over crossing 39th Street there, correct?
Correct.
All right. The 3100 block of South 39th would be between Euclid and Oklahoma, is that right?
Correct. Oklahoma is 3100 and Euclid is 3200. So it's almost in the middle of the block.
I'm putting exhibit 445 up next to 204. Does that appear to be the same person to you?
Yes.
Nothing else.
You know, I think this might be a perfect point to take a break for 10, 15 minutes, take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll come back, okay? So leave your notebooks on your chair, please. Anything to address on the record at this point?
No.
Defense?
No.
Okay. Then we'll take a 10-minute break.
So you can see that they are taking a break in the Maxwell Anderson trial. Probably, my guess is this may be the last break of the afternoon, but we have just come out of what may be one of the more consequential sequences of the state's presentation, as we've heard a lot of discussion about the movements, the timeline, the movements, what they say, of Maxwell Anderson on the day after his date with Sade Robinson. What we just heard and watched over the last hour and a half was a detailed stitching together of the movements of this person with a backpack from the scene of the fire, the car fire that happens at 29th and Lisbon, out to the road and kind of meandering down a few blocks and eventually boarding a bus at 35th, and I lost the location of that, but at let me go back and find the location. But boarding a bus and then riding it all the way back down within a few blocks of Maxwell Anderson's home. The really telling video here is a shot from the side camera of a Milwaukee County transit bus. As the bus happens to be, we just learned today that there are something like 14 cameras now on every Milwaukee County transit bus. It happens to be passing by the scene of the car fire just after the fire has been set. You see the bus, which is proceeding westbound, and on one side of that camera you can see the car just looks like a fire is just beginning, and walking away from that car is a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt or a hooded shirt of some type, dark pants, and that's the still photo you see right there. You see right on that white building, the lower left corner of that white building, you see a person who is standing there. The very far right side of the screen, you might be able to see a little fleck of orange. That is the beginning of the fire inside the car, according to the detective who was testifying. And you see a person walking away with a backpack. You see there's a person with an umbrella standing there. A couple of people We earlier saw videos of those people reacting from a different camera, reacting to what they saw, and then they point toward the man with the backpack and say, he did it. Somebody call an ambulance or call the fire department. So we're now actually seeing for the first time a connection between the man with the backpack walking directly away from a fire that looks like it's just started in that vehicle. We know, of course, that fire eventually engulfed the vehicle and gutted much of the inside, although the outside of the vehicle was left largely intact, and so was the trunk. That's where we found, or police found, I should say, we've been shown that police found Sade Robinson's clothing. But this person with the backpack then proceeds down the road away from where this camera is looking right now. As the bus is going this direction, it passes by. There's a rear-facing camera that captures the same individual. You get a little better look at him. That's it right there. Boy, Delaney doing a great job in the booth calling this up. You see that man right there? That is the same one walking away from the fire scene. There's another photo that is picked up of this, what appears to be this same person wearing the dark-colored clothing. His shoes have light-colored bottoms, and then the tan backpack. This one is at around 30, well, it's Walnut, a couple of blocks west. It's like 1 block south of where this is and a couple of blocks west. I'm going to pull up my map so I can describe this a little bit better for you here live. But it is then at Walnut and crossing the railroad tracks about 1.5 blocks west and 1 block south of the fire. So we're a couple of blocks away, and we've seen that photo a couple of times. I'm going to see if I can pull that one up right now. That is this right here. There's the person with the light-colored soles on his shoes, the dark pants, the hooded sweatshirt or hooded shirt, and that stuffed full tan-colored backpack. We didn't know where he went from here. Now, I've told you before that just to the south, that would be toward us, as you're looking at the camera, toward us and away from that white background, is a park that is where Sade Robinson's, some of her remains were eventually found a few days later. This was taken the morning of April 2nd, which is the morning after the date that Sade and Max Anderson went on together. So this is at around between 7 and 8 a.m. that you're seeing this still photograph. He continues walking. We hadn't seen what happened after this until now. What we just recently saw on videos that were shown by detectives was this same person continuing to walk and eventually ending up at a bus stop. They say that's him there, the person on the left, kind of at the central part of the screen, but you can see the tan strap around his shoulder as he's waiting at a Milwaukee County Transit bus stop. That is at 35th and Lisbon. And this is at around 8:12 a.m. The shot of him walking away from the fire is at around 7:29. So there's about a 43-minute gap between the time he leaves the fire scene and the time he boards the bus. So what happened in those 43 minutes? Well, we know he didn't go directly down Lisbon, but even with the sort of meandering route he appears to have taken, I used a mapping program myself this afternoon, and it looks like it's at most maybe a 15-minute walk. That leaves about 30 minutes unaccounted for, or at least 30 minutes that we haven't seen prosecutors yet account for. Does that in any way explain maybe what happened and how those body parts ended up in that park area? He passes directly past the park. Did he stop off at some point? Did he go down into the woods? Did he deposit some of her remains there? We don't know, but we do know there's a little bit of a gap in time. So now he's standing there at the bus stop, and eventually, and I don't know that we have any stills of this yet that I can present you, but we did see prosecutors then show the bus itself, the cameras that are on the bus. We see a person who clearly matches. This is the photo we've seen many times. It's Maxwell Anderson boarding the bus and then sitting on the transit bus. And you get a pretty clear look at him. Okay, I think we do have that photo ready to go if I pull it up. That is Maxwell Anderson boarding the bus. Or at least that's what prosecutors say is Maxwell Anderson. It's the person I think we all recognize as him from the booking photos and the photos that we've seen since this all began more than a year ago. That is him, they say, boarding the bus. He then pays the fare and then goes back and sits down on the bus. This is on the north side at 35th and Lisbon, and prosecutors say that bus then travels south from the north side all the way down to the south side. And by the way, 35th Street goes all the way through. So they say that he rides that bus along 35th Street all the way down past the interstate, past Greenfield, past Mitchell, past Burnham and Rogers. I think it keeps on going. Let's see how far down this goes. Maybe I took it that a little bit too far. Maybe it's not quite that far south. Where is Ohio? Well, I think I was right. Actually, it keeps going. Takes it all the way down near 35th and, yes, because past Oklahoma to Lakefield Drive. Now, this is just south of Oklahoma, and the prosecutors played part of this video where you see the person that they say is Maxwell Anderson come up to the bus driver as they're approaching 35th and Lakefield, and he says, "Can I get off here?" And the driver says, "No, it's the middle of the street." What prosecutors point out is if he gets off at 35th and Lakefield, that is the most direct walking path to what we know is Maxwell Anderson's residence a few blocks away near 39th and Euclid, because Lakefield wraps around to Euclid, so that would be the most direct. It would be about a 4-block walk to get to his house from there. Instead, the bus driver continues on down to the bus stop, which is at 35th and Ohio. That is also, maybe now it's about a 5-block walk to Maxwell Anderson's house. But what they seem to be showing here, we're finally seeing them piece together, they're connecting Maxwell Anderson to the fire that burned out Sade Robinson's car and had her clothes inside, a bus ride that goes all the way down within just a few blocks of his house, and all of that happens with about an hour's time. This is really the first time we're starting to see the state connect a lot of the dots. They've been laying these out methodically over the last few days. And again, this is at that connection of him with the backpack, they say, going from the car fire scene to his home. We know that we have heard the defense bring up a number of times the question of, can a person be in the wrong place at the wrong time? And it will be interesting to see if the defense ultimately stipulates to the fact that that is, they haven't yet, that is Maxwell Anderson, or if they will say, even if you think it is, we're not admitting it is, but even if you think that's Maxwell Anderson, it doesn't prove he did this. That is likely the argument we're going to hear from Tony Cotton and the Anderson defense team. But there is more to come from the state. We still haven't seen some of what they found inside Maxwell Anderson's home, including photographs they say were pulled off of Maxwell Anderson's phone. We don't know when the state will be getting to that, but this was a pretty consequential series of videos and still photos that we were just shown that seem to, as far as the state's case is going to go, connect Maxwell Anderson to the car fire and then show him going back home. It also shows him, they say, walking directly past the area where some of those remains were found. We're going to take a break here from the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we will have more right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are in a recess right now from the Maxwell Anderson trial. This is the trial into the death of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. Not only the death, but also the dismemberment of that 19-year-old after a first date with Maxwell Anderson. I'm going to take you back through this sequence of events because I do think it was a really important one that just happened here over the last couple of hours. And I want to start with, this is the car. This was Sade Robinson's car that was set ablaze on the north side of Milwaukee around 29th and Lisbon. That video was taken at 8:21 in the morning, as you can see according to the body camera, on April 2nd. It was set about a little less than an hour before this, according to what we have been told by investigators. It was probably closer to 7:30 in the morning. Well, for the first time today, we got a glimpse of some what happened shortly after this. Now, this is, of course, after the fire, but Delaney, if you've got the one, if you could pull up of him, or of what they say. Yeah, there you go. So right there, that white building, that's on the sort of right side of that white building, that's where the car fires. In fact, if you can see, there's a faint flicker of orange just to the right of that white building. That is, investigators say, the beginning of the car fire. It's just been, the inside contents have just been set on fire. They said there was an accelerant used, likely something like lighter fluid, and then they said there was an open flame that was used to set that on fire. But at the bottom of the white building, right next to the tree, you can see the figure of a human. It's right under that mouse, what looks like sort of the mouse cursor. There is a person wearing a backpack walking away from the fire. This is the first time we've seen this image that prosecutors are saying that's Maxwell Anderson walking away from the fire. Well, why do they believe that's Maxwell Anderson? Well, let's take a look at the next image, which is this video, by the way, or this shot is from a front-facing camera of a Milwaukee County transit bus that just happens to be passing at this very time. Well, when that bus continues going forward and passes that white building, we get a reverse shot from a different camera on that same bus, and that, they say, is the same person, Maxwell Anderson, they believe, with the tan backpack, the dark clothing, and the hooded top, and then the shoes that have sort of a light-colored bottom to them that becomes crucial a little bit later on. After he leaves this location, they say, we see this image. This is a couple of blocks away to the south and west of where the fire was along Walnut Street, and he's just crossing some railroad tracks. The person there in that hooded sweatshirt that police say is, or prosecutors say is Maxwell Anderson. Again, tan backpack. He's got the shoes with the light-colored bottoms. He's got the dark pants and the hoodie. He's moving west. This is directly past, just to the south of this, which would be toward us as we look at this photo. Just to the south of this is the playground and wooded area where some of Sade's remains would eventually be found a few days later after family members located a blanket in that area with Sade's picture on it. Investigators did a second canvass of that area and then found Sade's remains. But this, they say, is him walking immediately past that location. He continues on and ends up at a bus stop. And that is, there you go, that is at 35th and Lisbon, another several blocks to, or a few blocks to the west. But he doesn't walk directly there. Remember, he was on Walnut, which is a block and a half, or a couple of blocks south. And he keeps going through that area, eventually ends up at this bus stop 43 minutes after he leaves the fire scene, according to prosecutors in the timeline they've given. Don't really have a full accounting of what happened in those 43 minutes because it's no more than a 10 or 15 minute walk between those two places at best. But nonetheless, he ends up at this bus stop. He then boards a Milwaukee County transit bus at 35th and Lisbon. And prosecutors say that face you see is the one you likely recognize from all the news coverage leading up to this as Maxwell Anderson, the defendant. It's a much clearer image of the person with that backpack, they say. This is all the same person. This is at around 8:12 in the morning. Then, of course, he sits on the bus and rides as that bus heads south. There he is on the left side of the screen. You can see the tan backpack over his shoulder, the backpack straps. Prosecutors say he rides this bus directly south on 35th Street all the way to the south side where it approaches 35th and Lakefield, I believe, is the street. I'm going to say, go back and double check that, but Lakefield, which is just south of Oklahoma. So he gets to just south of Oklahoma and he asks the bus driver, "Can I get off here?" And the bus driver says, "Well, no, this is you know, they're in the middle of the street. I got to keep going." The bus driver continues on beyond Lakefield to Ohio, which is the next stop, and then that is where he departs the bus. You see there, he's just gotten off the bus at around 35th and Ohio, and prosecutors say Lakefield would have been the most appropriate place, the shortest walking distance, had he gotten off there where he asked to get off, if in fact that's Maxwell Anderson going to Maxwell Anderson's house, because he lives just a few blocks away at 39th and Euclid. Instead, he gets off at Ohio, and they say he then walks the direction he would be going if he were trying to take that route back to 39th and Euclid. So this is the full picture we see of what prosecutors are saying is Maxwell Anderson making his way from the car fire scene all the way back down to his house the morning after his date with Sade Robinson. Obviously, the picture they are painting here is that this was Maxwell Anderson dumping the car, burning the contents, and then going back home after committing this heinous crime. The defense, on the other hand, says, well, number one, they haven't conceded that that is yet Maxwell Anderson, as much as those images from the bus seem much more clear than some of the others. But they still keep coming back to what's missing from this evidence. There's still no proof that Maxwell Anderson had any particular weapon, that he had any tools that might have been used to have dismembered Sade Robinson's body. And there is no bloody crime scene they can point to where they found blood from Sade Robinson or DNA that was left behind. So there are still missing pieces, but this was a pretty, like I say, a pretty circumstantial afternoon in terms of that chain of evidence, the video that shows what appears to be Maxwell Anderson going from the fire scene back down to his apartment. We know it was Sade Robinson's car that caught on fire. We know it was Sade Robinson's clothing that were in the trunk of that car. What we have not yet seen, but what we've been told through opening statements is still to come, are photographs from Maxwell Anderson's phone, which he still had on him a few days after this date with Sade Robinson, and that was recovered from him when he was arrested a few days after all of this started, after her leg was found in Warnemount Park. The photographs from that phone purportedly are going to show Sade Robinson lying face down on Maxwell Anderson's couch and his hand grabbing her right breast. Another photo will show, according to the opening statements, Maxwell Anderson or someone removing Sade Robinson's clothing, particularly her light-colored jeans and her underwear. When the clothes were recovered from the vehicle, the trunk was still intact. That didn't burn. And what prosecutors found there, what police found and prosecutors say, was the jeans actually had the underwear on the outside. The detective who was testifying at the time was asked what she makes of that, and she said it would be consistent with someone removing the clothing, someone other than Sade herself removing that clothing. I think the photograph we're going to see from the phone may be a key piece of evidence to match those two things together. Obviously, we have a long way to go in this case, but we are starting to get more and more consequential evidence. We're starting to see those dots be connected. The question is, will it be enough to convince the jury that the state has proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt? We are waiting for the court to come back in session for the rest of this afternoon, the last one of the week, here on day 4 of the Maxwell Anderson trial. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we'll keep you up to speed and up to date and take you back up to when the court resumes its testimony. We'll do that.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson here at the Wisconsin Live Desk as we continue to bring you coverage of the trial of Maxwell Anderson, who was charged with the death and dismemberment of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. The court is currently in recess, preparing to come back to the room. The judge just indicated to the parties, I'm hearing this through our reporter Bria Jones, who is in the courtroom, that the judge has addressed the gallery and told them not to wear all pink next week because it could be seen as influencing the jury. She had already instructed members of the gallery not to wear pink for this reason. It is my understanding from asking Bria this question just through a direct message. I asked, is anyone in the courtroom wearing pink today? She said, not the family, but there are a couple of people who told Bria they are former co-workers of Maxwell Anderson. They are the only two wearing pink. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe I'm misreading that. Maybe she meant to say of Sade Robinson. I'll have to ask for clarification on that. But there are apparently a couple of people in the gallery today who are wearing pink. And so the judge said, if everybody shows up in pink, there's a message they're sending. It was Sade Robinson's favorite color. The family has chosen that as the color to represent their support of Sade during the trial. A lot of people outside the courthouse today with signs, wearing pink, people driving by and honking. We saw that when we had Ben Handelman here with us earlier today. But outside the courtroom, they can do what they want. Inside the courtroom, the judge has said that she does not want to have that kind of a display. And I am told that they are coming back on the record, so we are going to take you back out to the Milwaukee County Safety Building and the trial of Maxwell Anderson.
An individual walking, and you said behind him you can see a fire, correct?
Correct.
And in that video, I want to kind of talk about what's captured on it, and what we see is an individual walking, and he's just about to enter the sidewalk, right on Lisbon.
Correct. He would be just north of that sidewalk on the field.
Just by like 1 or 2 feet, pretty close.
I would probably say it's more than 2 feet. As it's pulling up and you clear that blue building, you can see him coming out of the field. So I'd probably say it's closer, maybe 10 feet into the field.
Okay. And then you also can see on the video, it was a woman in an umbrella, correct?
Correct.
And it looks like, when the individual and the woman in an umbrella are pretty close. They're almost like right by each other on that sidewalk.
At first, yes.
Okay. And what the video doesn't show, that individual ever exiting that car, correct?
Correct.
It never sees them driving it, right?
No.
Certainly doesn't show that individual lighting the car on fire, correct?
Correct. And
you can't see that individual, he's not standing right next to the car, correct?
No.
You don't see him toss anything into the car?
No.
You don't see him, putting any liquid anywhere around that car?
No.
You just see him walking, on just about onto that sidewalk where he'll eventually cross that street, correct?
It would be the general direction away from the car towards the sidewalk, I guess would be the most accurate way.
Yeah, thank you. And this individual, he's not running, right?
No.
He's not, doesn't appear to be panicked or looking over his shoulder.
I can't tell that from the video.
Okay, but you're highly trained, as a detective to, look for that kind of suspicious behavior, correct?
Correct.
I think the common term that you use is furtive movements, right?
Correct.
Like people, maybe glancing around, right?
Right.
People blading their body, right?
Correct.
People running.
Correct.
And like an example is like when an example of something that's suspicious is when you see someone walking towards, like a police officer, when they see that police officer, they run the other way.
Correct.
And this individual that we see on camera doesn't do anything like that, right?
Yeah, there's no police officer in the area.
Okay. But what we do see is we see the individual walking in one consistent direction, correct?
Correct.
And that individual eventually walks to a bus stop, right?
Correct.
And waits at a bus stop, correct?
Correct.
And this area on Lisbon, it's a very busy street in Milwaukee, right?
It's one of the busier ones, yes.
And we saw in the video there's people driving down the street, right?
Yes.
People walking down the street.
Yes.
People waiting for buses, right?
Yes.
And so you got to admit this is a very densely populated area, correct?
Correct.
Because there's residential homes around that area as well, correct?
Correct.
And so when you see this individual, I mean, it's fair to describe that he's simply just walking calmly, right? I mean, he's not running.
He's not running, he's walking.
Okay. And so now I want to talk about it's Exhibit 204. If we can, it's State Exhibit 204. If we can bring that up.
How do we get that?
204 is the still photo.
Okay.
This is 203.
203. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. So we have Exhibit 203 up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We can just, what portion do you want when he gets on the bus? Okay. That's where we're at. We had 8/12/19.
I'm starting at 8/12/19. If you could just play that.
Hmm? Sure. Use this one. Try this one.
It's on. It's a matter of recording.
You just utilized the HDMI cord from the state, correct?
Yeah, that's what I did now. That TV isn't getting a signal. I just thought if we had a remote, I could push source or.
This one goes on and off by touch, correct? We could try turning it off and turning it back on. Do you want to help, friends? Thank you.
It's coming up on that.
There is a source selection on there too before you turn it off. Or when you turn it off. It says power and source. So you might be able to do it from here. Might.
Otherwise, it's not ideal, but we can do it over here if the jury isn't, it's not perfect, but I mean, you're asking the witness questions.
Yeah.
I think we just do it that way. Right, it's not TV, so we'll just do it. Is that okay with everyone? Just gotta see the heads nod. Let's just do that. Yep. What did you say, 8/12/19? I started at 8/12/05, okay?
And we've reached out to the IT person too, who's on his way, so maybe we'll have some positive response. Oh, we got it back.
Okay.
I think it's when we expanded that screen. 'Cause that's when it
Thank
did
you.
it last.
Thank you, Deputy Benz.
All right, so I just want you to watch the video. We already saw the state put on in direct.
Yes.
All right, stopping at 8/12/42. You can see when this person gets on the bus, you don't see any blood on their hands, correct?
No.
You don't see any red marks?
No.
And
All right, I'm going to break away from this for right now. If you want to continue watching the live coverage of the testimony, you can head over to our Fox 6 News Milwaukee YouTube channel. In just a moment here, we're going to be going to Fox 6 News at 4 p.m. And of course, we'll be back here on the Wisconsin Live Desk tomorrow, starting at 12:30 and all through 4 p.m. to bring you the latest from the trial of Maxwell Anderson and, of course, analysis of what we are seeing, updates on what is happening. A lot more consequential testimony today, but there is so much more to come in the next week. Of course, it has been 1 week of testimony, nothing on Monday because of the Memorial Day holiday, but jury selection on Tuesday. We've had 3 days now of testimony and a few dozen witnesses who have appeared. Obviously, we will keep you up to date on all the other things that are yet to come. Thank you for joining us here today. We hope you'll keep watching us on Fox Local and the Fox 6 News Milwaukee YouTube channel. We'll see you tomorrow, or see you on Monday.
With stories that matter to you, this is Fox 6 News at 4.
It's very hard to, because I'm not asking anything more than time.
Now at 4, an MPS teacher's aide fighting to stay in the country. What happened today when she met with ICE officials. Plus.
What she's yelling is, he did that, call the fire department, call the ambulance.
New testimony in the Maxwell Anderson trial, focusing again on Sade Robinson's car fire after she went missing.
And that is our big story today at 4. Day 4 of the Maxwell Anderson homicide trial is full of surveillance video. Milwaukee detectives walk through images that prosecutors say shows Anderson shortly after her car is lit on fire.
Ben Handelman has been in the courtroom today, and he joins us live outside the safety building. Ben.
Hey guys, before we go inside the courtroom, I want to tell you what happened outside today. There's been a lot of honking outside of the safety building. That's because supporters of the family of Sade Robinson, they've been out here wearing their pink, holding up signs. They've since gone home for the day, and it has been another fascinating day there on the 6th floor inside the safety building. There was a parade of homicide detectives taking the stand today to talk about their investigation. We saw many new images from surveillance cameras in this North Side neighborhood where Sade Robinson's car was eventually torched and her remains found scattered nearby. One detective says they found remains near a playground in the area, and they were called back out when family members doing their own search found a pink blanket with Robinson's face on it.
Did you locate anything else? So close to the blanket, I located a small piece of what appeared to be flesh. I also located a small piece of what appeared to be bone. The bone appeared to be somewhat fresh, as it was still like pink or red with a little bit of like flesh attached to it.
And this is multiple detectives and police officers walking through this wooded area, and no blanket was located on April 5th, correct?
At that time, correct.
And we saw a picture of the blanket. It's a distinct pink color. We saw how the position it was when you arrived, right?
Right.
It's pink. There looked like the underside was white, correct?
Correct.
So that's one of Maxwell Anderson's attorney trying to poke holes, trying to wonder why police did not find that blanket, but members of Sade Robinson's family and friends did. Really fascinating video in the afternoon session here, guys, today, where we can see what appears to be and what prosecutors say is Maxwell Anderson getting on a Milwaukee County bus near the area of that burnt out car and that playground and dumping area where some of the remains were found, and taking that bus back to an area right near his house. That is what the prosecutors believe will be a crucial piece of evidence in this case. I want to tell you some of the things that happened in the courtroom today. We heard a lot of grisly details. You just heard some of that. This was really difficult for Sade Robinson's family. Her mother had to get up at one point, according to Bill Miston, and be helped out of the courtroom. She did not want to see some of the graphic images that were shown there. Maxwell Anderson's family was in court today, but in the afternoon his father left, and that left that side of the room completely empty. There was no one on that side of the courtroom. So we're expecting several more days of this trial, but another just interesting day with all this new surveillance video on that side of town. Reporting downtown, Ben Handelman, Fox 6 News.
And Ben, that's my question on the outset. It was like 2 weeks was the estimate for this trial. Do we know how far the state is in its witness list? Are they going to call all 250 people?
Yeah, Kim, that is a great question, and I've been talking amongst the media pool about this. And what's interesting about this trial, there is no clear answer how long this could go. They said it could be about a 2-week trial, but with that witness list of 250 people, you know they're not going to call all 250 people. Some of the witnesses on there would have a very similar thing to say than some of the others, but we don't know how many of the 250 people they will call. So really, we don't know how much longer this will go, but we do expect next week will be pretty full as well.
All right, Ben Handelman, thank you for the reports. And legal expert and criminal defense attorney Jonathan Lavoie will join us tonight for Fox 6 News at 9 and 10. He will go over today's testimony and look ahead to what we can expect next week. That's tonight on Fox 6 News at 9 and 10. As been mentioned, outside of the court, there has been a show of support for Sade Robinson. People have been showing up daily outside the safety building. They're wearing pink, Sade's favorite color, and showing signs of support, calling for justice for Robinson and her family. We've also learned today a threat was made to Maxwell Anderson's attorney, Anthony Cotton. According to the Waukesha police, someone called his office threatening his family if he keeps representing Anderson. The incident is under investigation.
If you want to get caught up on everything that happened in court during week 1 of the trial, download and check out the latest episode of the Fox 6 podcast, Open Record. Fox 6 investigators Brian Polson and Amanda St. Hilaire walk you through jury selection, opening statements, and the witness testimony. Legal expert and criminal defense attorney Julius Kim also offers insight into what we might expect in week 2 of this trial. Open Record is available on Fox Local, wherever you find your favorite podcasts, and also right here on Fox 6 Sunday nights at 11. Now, as the Anderson trial continues, we are streaming it gavel to gavel, including right now on Fox Local, the Fox Local mobile app, and the Fox 6 News Milwaukee YouTube channel. Also on Fox Local, you can review any previous day's testimony and check out more in-depth coverage of the murder of Sade Robinson.
The man charged with reckless homicide for a shooting in Glendale pled not guilty today. John Sweeney is accused of shooting and killing Andrew Martin. Prosecutors say that Martin and Sweeney argued with each other over a parking spot at Sweeney's house. They say Sweeney fired a shot into the ground. Martin left but came back a few hours later to gather some things with his girlfriend. Martin left but came back